Long Chen crazily assaulted Yunshang, but the other four sovereigns' attacks also left him bloody. Every single attack possessed apocalyptic power, and parts of his body were repeatedly blown apart. However, Long Chen was still fearless. The heavenly Qilin demon trees in the primal chaos space provided him with a huge amount of life energy. Unfortunately, all the damage was adding up, so their leaves were starting to turn yellow. Long Chen, you can't be this rash. Use some strategy. I feel like Yun Tian's words are correct, transmitted Evil Moon. In the beginning, Evil Moon truly had wished to target Yunshang due to its hatred. Hence, the fact that Long Chen would target Yunshang first made it very happy. However, when the five sovereigns all joined hands, it became extremely taxing to fight them all this way. If this continued, they would really be in danger of being killed. No. Today, I must defeat Sovereign Yunshang. This is a threshold that I must cross, said Long Chen directly. What damn threshold? If it was a 1 against 1, you definitely could suppress him. So you've already won, exclaimed Evil Moon angrily. This stubbornness of his was truly vexing sometimes. Sovereign Yunshang doesn't have a physical body. As an imitation created by the heavenly Daos, his power doesn't match his real body. Furthermore, I now have your help. That means it's basically a 2 against 1. If I can't beat him with these conditions, how am I supposed to walk my path in the future? Said Long Chen. Evil Moon was speechless. Long Chen's words were correct. These imitations of the sovereigns were definitely not as strong as their true bodies back in the day. But they were still 5 sovereigns. Who could beat them? Furthermore, Evil Moon had been refined into a weapon and no longer had access to many of the dark evil dragon race's divine abilities. Now isn't the time to show off. Your life is more important. You'll definitely die like this, persuaded Evil Moon. Long Chen narrowly avoided Qing Su's attack but was struck by a zither string, which left a bloody line on his back. That thin line shattered his bones. With a painful grunt, Long Chen swung Evil Moon, blocking Mo Li's sword. He rapidly healed his wounds and once more charged at Yunshang. You melon-headed donkey! You really will die like this, raged Evil Moon in a panic. There was no medicine for this idiocy. Don't get mad at me. Do you think that I want this? There's no other option, cursed Long Chen angrily. What? Asked Evil Moon. I can't do anything about it. This is the will of the 9-star hegemon body art. It refuses to allow me to retreat, raged Long Chen. Treating Yunshang as a threshold? Retreating midway wasn't his style. That was bullshit. When the 5 sovereigns attacked together, the Pill Sovereign's will, which had been dormant for a long time, suddenly burst out, forcing Long Chen to target the strongest sovereign, Yunshang. He didn't know if this was caused by him forcibly changing the ladder path of the 9-star hegemon body art, but when the Pill Sovereign's will reappeared, he couldn't refuse it. Furthermore, with the Pill Sovereign's memories merged with his own, it was difficult for him to tell what was his own will and what was the Pill Sovereign's will. Long Chen didn't think that he was such a foolish person as to seek death in such a scenario. Thus, he deduced that this will had come from the Pill Sovereign. Long Chen was capable of strategy, of following Yun Tian's words and killing Ziyang first, leaving more openings for fighting the remaining 4 sovereigns. However, once he betrayed this will, his own undefeatable Dao heart would crumble. It would be a crumbling of his own faith in himself, and that was a fatal blow to an expert. Long Chen had bitterly kept this to himself, but Evil Moon's pressing caused him to spit out this bitterness. That's such a scam. Evil Moon was also dumbfounded. What kind of cultivation technique was so domineering that it forced someone to die? Evil Moon, prepare yourself. After 10 breaths, I will unleash my full power. Victory or defeat will be decided at that moment. As long as we beat Sovereign Yunshang, everything else is basically settled, transmitted Long Chen. Lightning runes were circulating within Long Chen's bones, a place that no one could see. All the attacks he received were being absorbed into those lightning runes. After Lei Linger had taken human form, Long Chen didn't summon her to fight the sovereigns. Instead, he had her absorb their power within his body. The sovereigns were manifestations of lightning, not true physical bodies. Hence, their attacks contained thunder force, and Lei Linger was rapidly absorbing it all. Finally, Long Chen took a deep breath. After that, lightning wings spread on his back, growing larger and larger. Qing Su, Mo Li, Han Wei, and Zi Yang were struck by the wings at the same time. The four sovereigns were sent flying as Long Chen seemed to suddenly transform into a god of lightning. As lightning raged around him, he slashed Evil Moon at Yunshang. Split the heavens 9. His cry was like the roar of a celestial god, shaking the 9 heavens. A saber image tore into the sky, unleashing endless black mist and lightning runes. The saber fell, shaking the world. This was an attack containing Long Chen's entire heart and spirit. This was the attack he had wagered his life and death on. Yunshang smiled. This is the most marvelous attack I've ever seen in my life. It cannot be blocked. Long Chen, I entrust the martial heaven continent to you. Boom. The saber mercilessly slashed down, blasting apart Yunshang's body. He then transformed into divine runes that vanished into the void. Success! The Dragonblood warriors cheered, while Meng Qi and the others wept from joy. Just as they were overwhelmed with joy, sword light pierced through the void. Long Chen hastily dodged but was still struck in the shoulder. A piece of his flesh was cut off. The heavenly tribulation had not ended. Sovereign Yunshang was gone, but the other 4 sovereigns remained. Now when looking at Long Chen, everyone's hearts clenched. In the heavens wrath state, Long Chen had used the 9th form of Split the Heavens, so his aura was plummeting, becoming extremely weak. It seemed that this attack had used up the majority of his energy. A zither string slashed through the air, slicing the void in 2. Long Chen hastily blocked it and ended up coughing up blood. Now what? Boss is out of energy. Guoran and the others began to panic. Long Chen had paid a grave price to kill Sovereign Yunshang. Using Lei Linger to absorb the sovereign's power, he had suddenly unleashed a blow to force the 4 of them back, giving him a hard-won opportunity. However, even though Sovereign Yunshang was gone, the other 4 sovereigns were even more dangerous to face in Long Chen's current state. Big sister, do you really want to kill me? Long Chen suddenly smiled at the attacking Han Wei, who had an unwilling expression. However, her hands still moved, unleashing a zither string at Long Chen. Hee, since Big Sister is being so vicious, don't blame little brother for cheating. Lightning domain, open. Suddenly, the void behind Long Chen exploded and a gigantic channel appeared. On the other side was a world of wild lightning. The passage to the lightning domain was opened by Lei Linger. Millions of lightning dragons flew out, and amongst them were 9 multicolored dragons that were particularly conspicuous. As soon as they appeared, a terrifying pressure crashed down upon the world. Their auras caused heaven-merging experts to tremble. Last time, Long Chen had sent a sea's worth of divine lightning into the lightning domain, causing it to transform. The Dragon Kings had all entered slumbered and begun a metamorphosis. That was why, despite facing so many terrifying enemies, Long Chen had never unleashed the dragons of the lightning domain since then. They had been in the midst of the transformation. It was only last month that when he checked on the lightning domain, he saw that the Dragon Kings had awoken. Furthermore, they all managed to advance. At this moment, the spatial channel quivered and golden light dazzled everyone's eyes. From within the lightning, a giant golden dragon appeared. The king of the lightning domain had advanced to be a dragon emperor. Its entire body was now covered in scales that looked to be made out of immortal gold. Boss! In front of everyone's shocked gazes, the Dragon Emperor lowered its head to Long Chen. This terrifying existence was calling Long Chen boss. What they didn't know was that the Dragon Emperor's transformation this time had caused it to be completely loyal to Long Chen. Although it was a spirit of the lightning domain, it also understood gratitude. After meeting Long Chen, it had gained endless benefits. When they were first made back in the day, they were born to be servants to the human race's experts. That was a forced servitude. But this time, they were all willing to follow Long Chen. However, Long Chen didn't permit them to call him master, so in the end, the Dragon Emperor had an inspiration from the Dragonblood warriors, calling him boss. Sensing the endless power of divine lightning in the air, the Dragon Emperor knew that Long Chen had called them for more benefits. It seemed that every time that Long Chen called them, they profited. Having advanced to a Dragon Emperor, it had unprecedented power that it was willing to use for Long Chen. Damn, I forgot that you had this move left. Evil Moon sighed with relief. It had actually forgotten about this trump card. No wonder Long Chen had dared to fight so recklessly against Sovereign Yunshang. As the energy of the lightning domain flooded into the martial heaven continent, the laws of the two worlds mixed. The dragons of the lightning domain were incredibly excited, like wolves seeing plump meat. However, without the Dragon Emperor's orders, they didn't dare to start absorbing this energy. They were waiting for the Dragon Emperor's orders. At this moment, the Dragon Emperor lowered its giant head below Long Chen's feet, raising him up. On top of a giant dragon, Long Chen looked toward the four sovereigns. Although he was covered in blood, it didn't tarnish his image of an unrivaled hero. It was as if he was a celestial being. He smiled at the sovereigns. Junior brother only has this little ability. I've been rude to big brother Yunshang, and I can't do the same to my other big brothers and sister. Furthermore, I really can't bear to kill big sister Han Wei. So don't blame me for this little trick. Attack! Long Chen suddenly waved his hand. The Dragon Emperor let out a thunderous roar, and the lightning domain's dragons charged at the four sovereigns. Ah, little brother, you really are amazing. I was worried for nothing. Sovereign Han Wei laughed as she plucked at the void. Zither strings manifested before her. Countless lightning dragons were slashed apart by those zither strings, but they were lightning spirits, and after being destroyed, they were quickly reborn. Furthermore, the destruction and rebirth allowed them to absorb a great deal of the divine lightning energy in the air, causing them to grow stronger. The Dragon Kings also attacked, their claws raking through the air. That power was something that even made mid-heaven merging experts pale. Boom! A Dragon King fought against Emoli. With every swing of his sword, its body was shattered, but it would quickly reform. After 7 times, its aura had clearly grown. On the 8th time, its body was sliced apart, but it didn't shatter. Its body reconnected and continued fighting. Meanwhile, Long Chen stood atop the Dragon Emperor's head. He retreated from the Heaven's Wrath state, as well as the 6-star battle armor. He focused on recovering as quickly as possible. He had paid an immense price to kill Sovereign Yunshang. Even in the Heaven's Wrath state, although most of the energy had come from the spirits of life in this world, it had also exhausted close to 60% of Long Chen's max spiritual yuan and 80% of his spiritual strength. If it weren't for his powerful spiritual strength, he wouldn't have been able to control such a huge amount of power. Although the attack had succeeded, he wasn't too happy about it. Instead, it simply showed the difference between himself and a sovereign. Sovereign Yunshang was the first-generation sovereign and also the strongest sovereign in history. In this tribulation, a clone created by the heavenly Daos had at most 80% of his original power. Furthermore, without a physical body, there were many techniques that he couldn't unleash. Moreover, some terrifying techniques couldn't be imitated by the heavenly tribulation. For example, Long Chen's own 9-star hegemon body art, the Heaven's Wrath, the 9th form of Split the Heavens, and even Evil Moon could not be replicated. That was why he was able to kill the clones of himself. Since that was the case, Long Chen couldn't help shaking his head. The difference was truly great. Long Chen could vaguely feel that the difference might not be as great as he felt. He had the utmost confidence in the 9-star hegemon body art. This was definitely a supremely terrifying cultivation technique. The Pill Sovereigns had influenced him, preventing him from retreating, forcing him to face Sovereign Yunshang with his life on the line. However, Long Chen felt like he had vaguely grasped something. Could it be that my 6-star battle armor is incorrect? A flash of insight suddenly struck him. Why would the Pill Sovereigns suddenly pop up after vanishing for so long? What did it mean? Retreating midway? Fighting to the death? Seeking opportunity while being surrounded by danger? Long Chen muttered to himself, a strange expression on his face. Just as he was trying to understand if the Pill Sovereigns was hinting something to him, the Golden Dragon Emperor also joined into the fray. With every one of its attacks, the void collapsed. Only it was able to face the sovereigns head-on without being injured. The other lightning dragons were constantly being blown apart, but their numbers were endless, and they were rapidly reborn, growing stronger and stronger. Hence, the 4 sovereigns were drowning within the sea of lightning dragons. This was a battle of attrition, and Long Chen was borrowing the power of the lightning domain to get a breather. The sovereign's power is starting to drop. Suddenly, someone let out a delighted cry. After such a long time, there was a clear sign that the sovereign's power was dropping. That meant that the heavenly tribulation was running out of power. Since the heavenly tribulation was the source of the sovereigns, without it, the sovereigns would vanish and Long Chen would pass it. Just as everyone was happily surprised, divine light suddenly came from all 4 sovereigns at once. They vanished. Long Chen was still in thought when, without warning, 4 sharp swords stabbed into his body. What? 4 swords stabbed through Long Chen's body, turning him into a hedgehog. Everyone's hearts stopped beating. How could this be? Victory had clearly been in sight. Was it still a failure in the end? However, Sovereign Qing Su slowly let go. With a slight smile to Long Chen, he faded away along with Sovereign Mo Li and Sovereign Ziyan. As they vanished, they had gratified smiles. Sovereign Han Wei looked at Long Chen with a sad smile. Now do you understand? My good brother, goodbye? Wait. Remember, don't listen to those 4. Live your own life happily. You are more important to me than the world. Sovereign Han Wei touched Long Chen's cheek. She then kissed him on the forehead and dissipated into runes, returning to the world. For a moment, everyone could only stare in silent confusion. They had no idea what had happened. The sovereigns had vanished, but there were still 4 sharp swords stabbing Long Chen's body. Fresh blood dripped down them. Long Chen's blood dripped into the martial heaven searing, and everything was deathly silent. The very faint sound of the dripping blood had a strange cadence to it, just like the cadence of heaven and earth, the rhythm of all creation. Long Chen was like a statue standing in the void, as though he had been nailed to it. The sovereigns had vanished, but the swords continued to flicker. Boss Long Chen, the Dragon Emperor, was filled with shame. Only now did it react. Long Chen raised his hand as if reacting to its call. His movement caused the Dragonblood warriors to erupt into cheers, while Meng Qi and the others wept tears of joy. Long Chen hadn't died. After that, the void shuddered, and the world grew dark once more. As the power of the heavenly tribulation faded, the haze of the dark era shrouded the world again. However, Long Chen wasn't paying attention to anything happening outside. His focus was entirely on his inner body. The swords from Qing Su, Mo Li, Han Wei, and Zi Yang were actually a display of their life's greatest comprehension. Every single one of them had created their own cultivation techniques and skills themselves, and they hadn't transmitted those to the rest of the world. Due to their own specific comprehension, their self-created cultivation techniques were only suited to themselves. Every sovereign was an unmatched, unique existence. Hence, in order to unleash the greatest power, they created their own techniques. Their previous attacks had left scars in Long Chen's body and soul, almost like memories. As for these swords, they formed resonance with all the memories of those attacks. In that instant, Long Chen instantly comprehended all their techniques. Only now did Long Chen understand. The sovereigns had never been trying to kill him. They had been using their own power to display their individual paths to him. Of the 5 sovereigns, Yunshang, Qing Su, Mo Li, and Zi Yang were stone-hearted. They hadn't shown the slightest fluctuation over this. Only Sovereign Han Wei had been unable to bear it. This comprehension of their martial paths was the final gift the sovereigns gave him. The heavenly tribulation had wanted to kill him, but the sovereigns had used the tribulation to help him. They were truly existences that stood above the heavenly Daos. The swords slowly melted and were absorbed by Lei Linger. This was the purest divine lightning energy of the tribulation, and this was also sent to him directly by the sovereigns. Just at this moment, a giant pillar of light descended from the sky, enveloping Long Chen. Endless divine runes floated within this beam of light. The heavenly Daos divine light. The runes for corroborating the Tao. These runes were like proof of passing to disciples. This was the recognition of the heavenly Daos, an official acknowledgement of reaching heaven merging. Mo Nian Yun Tian, Beiting Rushuang, Nangong Xiu, Ziyen, and the others all entered this divine light, receiving this baptism. The Pill Fairy also entered with Wan Qing. This was the final step of the heavenly tribulation. Suddenly, the void split open, and one figure after another appeared. The nine-headed lion, the blood fiend devil lord, the all-devil heaven walker, the dragon woman, Yi Ming, Long Outyen, and the others also appeared within the divine light. Long Chen, face your death. Suddenly, the nine-headed lion attacked. His 9 heads glowed at the same time. As a result, the air beneath Long Chen's feet glowed, and then web-like runes appeared in the void around him, trapping him. Clearly, the nine-headed lion had been preparing this for a long time. He immediately attacked as soon as he appeared. Long Chen snorted and swung Evil Moon, unleashing a saber image. However, the web quivered but didn't break. Instead, giant figures began to appear on the web. Those were ancient lions, and a total of 9 of them were emitting ancient auras. Ancestral spirit blood offering. The 9-headed lion roared along with the 9 ancient lions. Their mouths all opened and blood-colored rays of light shot at Long Chen. Long Chen suddenly found that he couldn't move. This attack contained a bizarre energy. It seemed that it was filled with curse energy. This is the 9-headed lion race's strongest divine ability. I will offer you as a sacrifice to our world god, and your karmic luck pearl will go to me. The 9-headed lion laughed crazily. He had been waiting a long time for this attack. This was practically an unbreakable, peerless killing art. However, in order to activate this technique, he had sacrificed 9 of the 9-headed lion race's heroic spirits that stood guard over him. This was an immense price, but the karmic luck pearl had to be his. Long Chen felt like all his secrets were exposed in front of this bloodlight. It was like he was a prisoner, and everything he owned was about to be plundered by his jailer. He couldn't hold anything back. This was truly a strange and terrifying sacrificial art. The 9-headed lion had actually turned him into an offering. The moment the light pierced into his soul, the divine gate star in his mind's sea lit up. However, it didn't manage to force it out. Instead, the two ended up deadlocked. After that, the light struck his divine gate. Long Chen was startled. There were signs of the divine gate star being suppressed, and this was the first time such a thing had ever occurred. "Ha, give up," sneered the 9-headed lion. He poured all his power into this technique, wanting to end things before anyone else could interfere. At this moment, the light spread throughout Long Chen's body, invading every inch of it, even pervading through his bones. As he couldn't move nor resist, he was shocked and infuriated. The light then entered his dantian and stretched toward the primal chaos bead. Boom! The primal chaos bead quivered and unleashed a wave of divine light. As a result, the web binding Long Chen exploded, and those 9 giant lions also turned to dust. The 9-headed lion was dumbstruck. This was the technique he had been preparing all this time, and he had absolute confidence in it. In his mind, no matter how powerful Long Chen was, he would definitely die to this move. Thus, the 9-headed lion was already charging toward Long Chen when the latter suddenly broke free. Based on his calculations, he would arrive just as Long Chen was killed by this technique, allowing him to take the karmic luck pearl. However, in reality his technique shattered, and what he saw was Long Chen's eyes filled with killing intent. His fur stood on end, and a sensation of death filled him. At this moment, Evil Moon was already raised high, and the 9-headed lion was unable to stop his momentum at all. Filled with terror, he roared, his 9 heads unleashing 9 kinds of divine abilities that merged into a giant divine sword that pierced toward Long Chen as his saber fell. Boom! As a result, the divine sword exploded, and the 9-headed lion was sent flying. A giant cut could be seen on his chest, with even his insides leaking out. What a pity! I used up too much energy. Otherwise, I would have killed him just now. Long Chen sighed inside. His fight with Sovereign Yunshang had exhausted too much energy. Although he had focused on recovering afterward, he had only recovered his spiritual yuan to 60% and his spiritual strength to 30%. Without powerful enough spiritual strength, it was impossible to lock down the opponent, allowing them to slip away and dodge. This resulted in him missing the chance to kill the nine-headed lion. After being injured, the nine-headed lion was actually happy. He shouted, "Long Chen's spiritual strength is weak, and his spiritual yuan isn't fully recovered. Now is the best time to kill him. Kill!" Even before he finished speaking, Long Outyin was already charging over with endless killing intent. He's fully recovered so quickly? People were stunned to find that Long Outyin's nine-dragon manifestation was fully restored, and his aura had returned to its peak. To recover in such a short time was practically heaven-defying. "Long Chen, I will tear you into pieces today as vengeance for my father," roared Long Outyin. "That depends on whether or not you have that ability," sneered Long Chen. Although he hadn't fully recovered, he wasn't the slightest bit panicked facing Long Outyin. As Evil Moon slashed onto Long Outyin's spear, metallic ringing exploded along with sparks. Both the spear and Evil Moon were blown back at the same time. Just at that moment, Long Chen's hand smoothly struck Long Outyin in the face. Boom! Long Outyin's head exploded and his body collapsed. What? Everyone was stunned. Was Long Chen not in a weakened state? How did he end up so much more powerful that he could kill Long Outyin with a simple slap? Only sharp-eyed people saw that a dragon-shaped mark had appeared on Long Chen's palm just as Long Chen's slap landed. Long Chen's slap didn't contain any killing power, nor did it contain any killing intent. This lack of threat was what allowed it to slip past an expert's sharp senses. Before this, his slap was mostly just a mental attack. But now it was different. Lei Linger would unleash her own berserk lightning power just as Long Chen's palm was about to strike his enemy. The timing had to be perfect. Too early and it would be sensed, too late and the enemy would already be sent flying away. Hence, it had to erupt at the perfect time in an instant. At this moment, Long Outyin quickly reformed within his manifestation, and his 9 dragons were reduced to 8. In the very first exchange, one of his ancestral dragons was already destroyed. Because of this, Long Outyin went crazy with rage. He had charged over so confidently, only for Long Chen to kill him again. What a complete humiliation! Long Chen! Long Outyin roared. At this moment his dragon spear shone, unleashing 10,000 spear images that pierced toward Long Chen. After being slapped so many times, Long Outyin had finally learned his lesson. Even if he had to die, he refused to fight head-on against Long Chen again. If he did, his death would be even more sullen. Suddenly, a strange sound rang out from the bodies of everyone within the beam of divine light. It was as if something inside of them had shattered. Following that, they suddenly felt themselves lighten, and their connection to the world's energy became clearer. It was as if the mist had been torn away, and the world suddenly became clear. We've obtained the recognition of the heavenly Daos. Emon Yen and the others cried out excitedly. The heavenly tribulation had finally ended. Having gone through the final baptism, they were finally true heaven-merging experts. Suddenly, the void exploded and one world gate after another opened, shooting beams of divine light at Long Chen. Different kinds of world energy were crushing the laws of the martial heaven continent's heavenly Daos, and the pressure was absolutely suffocating. At this moment, the sound of a sword being unsheathed rang through the air. After that, 2 beams of divine light were shattered and ice crystals flew through the air. When those crystals fell into the martial heaven searing, the water instantly froze and this area became a world of ice. Taoist Heavenly Feather had finally taken action, blocking the experts from other worlds from attacking Long Chen. Taoist Heavenly Feather blocked 2 of the beams, and the other 3 were continuing toward Long Chen. But all of a sudden, they turned and shot toward the High Priest. At some point, a 3-foot wine gourd had appeared behind the High Priest. Its lid was open, and those 3 beams of light were sucked inside. The High Priest snorted. As always, you shameless fellows are doing shameful things. If you want to fight, then fight openly. Compared to his normal appearance, the current High Priest was far colder. He looked toward the world gates. A follower of the old wine ghost's Tao also dares to be so arrogant? Instead of making your dogs piss wine, you come interfere here? You must be tired of living. A sinister voice rang out from one of those world gates. That voice was chilling, like the voice of a hellish fiend. Although he spoke, he didn't appear and continued hiding behind the world gate, seemingly afraid of something. After that, the world gate flickered, like the gaze of a devil. The martial heaven continent's experts felt goosebumps. It was as if a fatal attack would come for them at any moment. "Cowardly rat, come and fight," sneered the high priest. Even in the face of so many world gates, even in the face of those terrifying auras, he wasn't afraid. Fight? It still isn't the time. First, let's see who the karmic luck pearl goes to. The sky suddenly exploded and thousands of spatial gates opened, like sinister eyes. Every single gate unleashed a whirlpool pointed at Long Chen. The karmic luck pearl above his head instantly began to shudder, causing Long Chen's expression to change. As the karmic luck pearl above Long Chen's head shuddered, he could clearly feel its energy being slowly absorbed by those whirlpools. This karmic luck pearl contained the spirit of all life on the continent, the foundation of all Das. It was something that supported the life of the martial heaven continent. However, it couldn't be directly absorbed. Instead, it would passively support whoever refined it. Long Chen estimated that with his full power, it would take around 3 days for him to refine it all. While fighting the sovereigns, Long Chen had sensed just how amazing it was to have the support of the world's karmic luck. Every one of their blows contained power resonating with heaven and earth. It was as if they represented the world, and the Tao had to listen to them. Having also used this power, Long Chen understood what it meant. It meant having the approval of the martial heaven continent and having the ability to use all the continent's power. This karmic luck pearl was what made someone a sovereign, someone in command of all Daos of the world. It was the ultimate power to protect the continent. At this moment, countless spatial gates opened, and it was unknown what power they were using. They were like blood-sucking ghouls, greedily consuming the karmic luck pearl's energy. The high priest's expression also changed, while Taoist Heavenly Feather repeatedly attacked. With every slash of his sword, a dozen spatial gates crumbled. However, they quickly reformed and continued absorbing the karmic luck pearl's energy. "It's useless. We went all out to take this era's karmic luck pearl. The destiny of the martial heaven continent has come to an end, and no one can save you." A mocking voice came from one of the spatial gates. Clearly, these invaders had long since made their preparations. Perhaps tens of thousands of years of preparation was spent just for today. "Scram!" Long Chen roared, slashing Evil Moon. As a result, the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the Blood Fiend Devil Lord, and Long Outyen were all sent flying. However, Long Chen himself spat out some blood. The three of them had spent all this time resting and were now in their peak state. As for Long Chen, he was weakened from his fight against the sovereigns. "Kill!" Just at this moment, the Dragon Blood warriors charged over. However, they were suddenly forced back by an invisible power. "What?" Guarant's expression changed. There was clearly no barrier, but they couldn't fly through. They set up an invisible barrier condensed of energy from their worlds. They really did come prepared. Xia Chen's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at his formation disk. As a formation expert, he was the first to realize that there was an invisible barrier. Moreover, this barrier was nothing ordinary. It was composed of the energy from the spatial walls of multiple worlds. In other words, it was backed by the power of multiple worlds, so there was no way that they could break it. At this moment, Taoist Heavenly Feather formed a sword seal in her hand, and her manifestation appeared behind her, unleashing a tide of ice chi. Just as she was preparing to unleash an attack to shatter the barrier, the High Priest appeared in her path. "You cannot. The core of that barrier is Long Chen, and he will receive the majority of your attack. You will only harm him like this." "So what else can be done?" demanded Taoist Heavenly Feather. Even she could no longer retain her calm. These invading experts were truly sinister, having calculated every step against Long Chen and the others. They had long since laid down a heaven-encompassing trap. There is no way for us to break this board. The only one that can do anything is Long Chen. Right now, they don't dare to come out of their world gates and can only interfere from the other side. So we just need to stop the divine families from interfering, said the high priest. They didn't just need to worry about the invaders but also the enemies amongst their midst, especially the divine families. They were unpredictable. Boom. Suddenly, the martial heaven searing exploded, unleashing a giant wave into the sky. At this moment, an immense illusion appeared before them. It was a giant bracelet that covered the sky. Although it was just a projection, it gave them endless pressure. Humans felt like ants before it. The heaven-devastating bracelet. The spatial gates suddenly froze, unable to absorb energy any further. After that, Long Chen's body shuddered and the suffocating feeling reappeared. The karmic luck pearl above his head was instantly sucked away. Now he understood why the heaven-devastating bracelet had been able to so easily take the karmic luck pearl at the beginning. It had been choking the life out of the martial heaven continent for tens of thousands of years. Like a leech, it had extracted the continent's energy, so it was capable of using a trace of the continent's power now. Long Chen, the karmic luck pearl cannot be lost. If they obtain it, they will awaken 2 sovereign stars. The martial heaven continent will then be powerless to resist, shouted the high priest. The karmic luck pearl concerned the life of all things on the continent. If taken, this world would be doomed. Right now, the karmic luck pearl appeared on top of the dragon woman's head. Light sprinkled down, protecting her. Haha. The dragon woman laughed. I am the heir to the heaven-devastating bracelet. This karmic luck pearl is mine. Boom. As she laughed, Long Outyin pierced her sword at her. However, when he struck her barrier, he was sent flying. Yi Ming, the blood fiend devil lord, the 9-headed lion, and the all-devil heaven walker all attacked as well and were forced back by the protective light. They didn't know what the dragon woman had done, but she had somehow activated the power of the heaven-devastating bracelet. All their attacks were useless against her. So what if the 5 sovereigns chose you? The karmic luck pearl is still mine. I will be the martial heaven continent's 6th generation sovereign. When I become sovereign, I will lead the sea demon race in wiping out the human race. The dragon woman laughed arrogantly, feeling extremely pleased with herself. A sovereign was in existence with a world's karmic luck supporting them. Upon becoming a sovereign, the dragon woman would be the ruler of this world. No one would be able to fight her. Split the heavens 9. Long Chen furiously attacked. The heaven-devastating bracelet was the enemy of the martial heaven continent. If the dragon woman became the continent's sovereign, it would be the end of the continent. Hence, Long Chen had no choice but to exhaust every last scrap of his energy in this attack. He didn't know what would happen afterward, but he couldn't afford to care about that. Boom. The light barrier did not manage to force back Evil Moon and shattered instead, instantly severing the dragon woman's laughter. Being impacted by the leftover energy, the dragon woman coughed up a mouthful of blood, cracks covering her entire body. As for Long Chen, he also coughed up blood. However, ignoring the immense backlash in his body, he charged toward the shocked dragon woman. The blood fiend devil lord was even faster than Long Chen. With his blood sun activated, he smashed his giant tower toward the dragon woman, which then took out and used her dragon bone whip to defend herself despite the suppression of the tower. After the exchange, she coughed up another mouthful of blood as her injuries worsened. As she flew back, the divine light formed around her once more, and Demon Yan's arrow was blocked by it. I have the protection of the heaven-devastating bracelet. You must be dreaming if you think you can kill me, roared the dragon woman. Just as she spoke, multiple attacks landed, all bouncing off the protective barrier. Only Long Chen's split the heavens could break it. Everyone looked at Long Chen, which was completely pale. That last attack left him with less than 1/10 of his spiritual yuan, and his spiritual strength had run out. The paleness was the result of overdrafting his spiritual strength. At this moment, the divine light around the dragon woman gathered around the karmic luck pearl, squeezing it. It quivered as its energy was forced out. She's rapidly absorbing its energy. Based on this rate, it wouldn't even be half an incense stick's worth of time before all the energy of the Karmic luck pearl was absorbed by her. Then she really would be the 6th generation sovereign. Suddenly, a speck of light appeared on her forehead. When that light appeared, the high priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, and a few other senior experts turned ashen. It's over. We're too late. She has absorbed the majority of its power. No one can take it away. Taoist Heavenly Feather clenched the Northern Source sword, her expression extremely unwilling. Has the martial heaven continent really met its end? Even if Long Chen was in his peak condition, it's already too late. We can only watch as she becomes the sovereign. The dragon woman laughed almost crazily. She was about to become the 6th generation sovereign, the ruler of this world. Long Chen, just wait, the first one I'll kill after becoming a sovereign will be you. I'll personally take back the essence blood that you stole from me. It's all that bastard Yunshang's fault. Otherwise, everything would be under control, cursed Evil Moon. Evil Moon had always felt admiration for Long Chen's control over his energy. If it wasn't for Yunshang forcing him to unleash all his power, his attack just now would have been enough to kill the dragon woman. However, it had been lacking just a bit, allowing her to survive. Hence, now her arrogant appearance made Evil Moon feel extremely irritated, and it blamed Yunshang for it. Boss Yun Tian, what should we do? Should we join forces and try to kill her? Transmitted Mo Nian. As long as he and Ziyen joined forces and unleashed the power of 2 supreme divine items at once, then adding Yun Tian, Long Chen and everyone else's attacks, they might be able to kill her. However, before Yun Tian could reply, Long Chen's voice rang out in their minds. Remember to save me in a bit. I'm going to kill her. Without having a chance to react, sacred chanting rang out. Following that, a terrifying heat ignited the world. The Nirvana scripture. The pill fairy, who had been indifferent to everything that had occurred, finally revealed a slight emotional flux. At this moment, a giant flame lotus burst into existence, and its terrifying heat made it feel like the world had turned into a furnace. As the lotus rapidly grew, the invisible barrier was heated to the point that cracks appeared in the air. That huge lotus dumbfounded everyone. Was Long Chen not supposed to be out of energy? How could he still unleash such a terrifying move? The truth was that this was only possible due to the final comprehension that the sovereigns had given Long Chen when they had stabbed their swords through his body. What Long Chen was using right now was Sovereign Ching Su's secret art, one that was capable of borrowing the power of the heavens when the user's power was exhausted. This technique definitely had some side effects, but Long Chen couldn't bother about them right now. Right now, Ziyan's Southern Sea Zither had yet to recognize her as master, while Mo Nian's Central Plains Cauldron had been controlled by the divine families for so long that it was in an extremely weak state. Even if they joined forces, they couldn't defeat the heaven-devastating bracelet's power. As old opponents, they were definitely aware of each other's power. The reason why the heaven-devastating bracelet took action now was because it was sure that these 2 divine items couldn't threaten it. Suddenly, countless flaming stars filled the world. On a closer look, those weren't stars but burning flame runes that were like meteor showers shooting through the air. Complicated to simple, simplicity to one. The Tao is formless, the form of formlessness. Long Chen's chanting suddenly changed. This was Sovereign Ziyang's mnemonic. As if reacting to it, the towering flame lotus suddenly vanished. In that instant, the world twisted as the 10,000 Daos cried out. Long Chen then charged toward the dragon woman, unleashing a palm that had a lotus-shaped mark at the heart of the palm. Just a glance at this mark caused people's souls to tremble in pain, as if their souls were lit ablaze. In front of everyone's horrified gaze, Long Chen's palm slammed into the divine light. As a result, the divine light was instantly pierced, and the lotus mark on his palm was unleashed, exploding on the dragon woman's body. The dragon woman let out a terrified cry. However, she was stunned to find that no sound came out. She couldn't make a sound, and she couldn't dodge. She could only watch as Long Chen's palm landed. After that, she didn't sense any pain. Her body simply exploded in an instant, without mist nor blood. Everything about her was gone as if it had never existed, from body to soul. What was gone along with her was the karmic luck pearl. Long Chen's palm continued, and a lotus seal smashed into the sea, creating a giant hole that reached deep into the depths and struck the earth. At this moment, the earth exploded, revealing a giant golden body. The entire martial heaven continent shuddered. That was the heaven-devastating bracelet's true body. Long Chen's attack was so terrifying that it dumbfounded everyone. After that attack, his aura suddenly vanished and he fell from the sky. Long Chen was unconscious. At this moment, without knowing whether he was dead or alive, the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the Nine-Headed Lion, Long Outyin, and Yi Ming all attacked. This was a rare opportunity for them. Scram! The Dragon Emperor beneath Long Chen's feet roared. Its tail whipped toward the four of them. Boom! The Dragon Emperor's tail exploded, but Long Outyin and the others' attacks were also blocked. The Dragon Emperor's power was quite shocking. Seeing that it had ruined their plan, the four of them furiously charged toward Long Chen with their divine items in hand. However, just at that moment, Long Chen's figure vanished and a towering cauldron appeared in front of the four of them. The Central Plains cauldron had sucked Long Chen inside. Yun Tian, Emon Yen, Hu Feng, Nangong Zuyu, Beiteng Rushuang, and the others all appeared around the Central Plains cauldron, preventing their attacks from landing on the Central Plains cauldron. At this moment, Long Chen was in an extremely weak state inside the cauldron. Any attack could cause him fatal wounds. Kill! The Dragon Blood warriors came charging over. The invisible barrier had been broken by Long Chen, so there was no longer anything blocking them. Rays of light shot out of the world gates, landing on the Blood Fiend Devil Lord, the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the Nine-Headed Lion, and Yi Ming. After that, their bodies were sucked inside the gates, vanishing. As for Long Outyin, one of his ancestral dragons in his manifestation exploded. His body had vanished without a trace along with the Dragon Emperor's claw. It was unknown what secret art he had used to flee. The Dragon Blood warriors charged to the front of the Central Plains cauldron, protecting it. They looked around and suddenly found that the Divine Family's experts had also left without a word after Long Outyin fled. The world gates were still open, but no further attacks came out. Instead, the Nine-Headed Lion's arrogant voice rang out from one of them. Sheep of the Martial Heaven continent, Long Chen has destroyed the Karmic Luck Pearl. Since the Martial Heaven continent's karmic luck is scattered, there will be no sovereign for you in this generation. Ha! The lack of a sovereign means that you are all just sheep to the slaughter. Fuck your mother, even if my boss isn't a sovereign, he can beat you into a dog, raged Guoran. The Nine-Headed Lion was the first one to be beaten away by Long Chen, but he still dared to act arrogant here. Before the Nine-Headed Lion could reply, the Blood Fiend Devil Lord's voice rang out. Idiot, you don't know? For us, becoming sovereigns of our worlds is inevitable. The only reason we came here for your karmic luck pearl was to give rise to two sovereigns at once. By gaining the recognition and support of two worlds, we would be unstoppable. However, if the karmic luck pearl is destroyed, then it means that the Martial Heaven continent cannot give rise to a sovereign. The moment we become sovereigns will be the day when the Martial Heaven Alliance is destroyed. Just pass your final days in terror and despair. The All-Devil Heaven Walker also added, the past invaders had to face sovereigns that protected this world, resulting in failure. Because the Martial Heaven continent is the core of a star field, despite being broken, it was strong like a dying camel, and the sovereigns that it produced were too powerful. However, we also saw that every sovereign that appeared was weaker than the last. That proved that we would succeed sooner or later. But who would have thought that the Martial Heaven continent would be so weakened that it is unable to even give rise to a sovereign? You are powerless to resist. When the Devil Race's army invades, all of you here will be killed. Not necessarily. If you wish, I can turn you into puppets of the Death Spirit race. I'll bestow you with undying bodies, ha! Laughed Yi Ming. It was unknown if they were simply trying to scare people, but even the Dragon Blood warriors felt a chill. The Martial Heaven continent no longer had any sovereigns to protect it. But their enemies would inevitably become sovereigns of their own worlds. Although Long Chen was strong enough to dominate those in the same realm, once the enemies became sovereigns, would he still be able to fight them? Even if he could, would he be able to suppress so many of them at the same time? Feelings of despair crept into people's hearts. Even though these words clearly had malicious intentions to whittle down their morale, they couldn't argue against facts. You are underestimating the martial heaven continent. Or rather, you are underestimating the 5 sovereigns. Suddenly, Yun Tian spoke up. He had been silent the entire time, but now his words shook everyone. Yun Tian was the son of Sovereign Yunshang. He was the most mysterious amongst all these experts. Other than Long Chen, he was the one that everyone had the most confidence in. Underestimate? Do you expect me to overestimate them? Are 5 dead people qualified for such an honor? Sneered the 9-headed lion. That mocking appearance infuriated everyone who worshipped the sovereigns as supreme existences. Yun Tian lightly said, Long Chen is the one that the 5 sovereigns chose, as well as the one that the martial heaven continent chose. To put it succinctly, he is the chosen of the heavens. He wears black clothes, contrary to the sovereigns. What does that indicate? It means that he walks a path different from all the sovereigns. Becoming a sovereign is nothing more than a formality. Long Chen is already a crownless sovereign. Look anywhere within the martial heaven continent and ask if anyone can compete with him. Yun Tian's words sparked hope in people's hearts. Long Chen was the chosen of the heavens, the one that the 5 generations of sovereigns thought highly of. Even if he couldn't become a sovereign, he would still be the 6th generation sovereign in their hearts. The blood fiend Devil Lord sneered, "What a joke. If he is not crowned, he cannot condense a sovereign star. Without a sovereign star, how can he control the 10,000 laws and Daos of the world? How can he refine heaven and earth into tools for his own use? If he cannot refine heaven and earth, how can he control the power of an entire world? If he can't control an entire world like we will be able to, then he is a clawless dragon, a fangless tiger, prey to be consumed. Whether or not it is a joke is something you will know in the future. However, Long Chen's power has proved that before anyone becomes a sovereign, none of you are a match for him. I still remember when I was a child. I asked my father who the strongest person in the world was. His answer was that there does not exist someone who is always the strongest. Some people unleash limitlessly greater power the more they put on their shoulders. Thus, don't think that the sovereigns are always the strongest. Save your big words till after you become a sovereign, and not for when you don't even dare to reveal yourself in front of us. Talking big while hiding behind a door isn't very honorable, said Yun Tian. You're the one talking big. Just wait, on the day I become a sovereign, I will use your blood to dye this world red, roared the blood fiend Devil Lord. After that, all the world gates slammed shut, and the world returned to its previous appearance. However, the sky of the martial heaven continent had darkened even more. The darkness shrouded the entire world, preventing people from seeing even a glimmer of light. The divine families have shut themselves off. News spread. After Long Outyan fled, the divine families also brought away Feng Fei, Yiliangchen, and Jiang Wuchen. All of them had retreated to their territory and shut the spatial channels connecting them to the continent. This action also indicated that the divine family's collaboration with the martial heaven continent had come to an end. In fact, the divine families might even be their enemies in the future. However, this news wasn't important. This was all within expectations. The invading armies from the Yin-Yang world, Devil Spirit Mountain, Resentful Death City, and the newly opened Demonic Beast battlefield in the southern Xian region have all retreated. This news was also within expectations. The High Priest and the others all understood why this was happening. Although their enemies hadn't managed to take the Karmic Luck Pearl, their interference had caused it to be destroyed. As the martial heaven continent could no longer give birth to a sovereign, there was no need for them to press the attack at this time. Time was actually on their side now. Each of their worlds would have a sovereign, and they would trample over the continent. High Priest, how is Long Chen? Asked Meng Qi. Long Chen's eyes were shut, and his aura was gone without a trace. As even his spiritual fluctuations could not be sensed, Meng Qi and the others were all pale with worry. They watched as the high priest pressed a hand on Long Chen's forehead. "No need to worry. He is in a special recovery state. There is no danger to his life," announced the high priest, allowing everyone to relax. At this moment, the lightning dragons from the lightning domain had retreated. The dragon emperor saw that Long Chen was well protected and left. All the lightning dragons had benefited immensely this time. The energy of the divine lightning in this tribulation was enough for them to ascend to an even higher level. The Dragon Emperor in particular had absorbed a huge amount of thunder force due to fighting alongside Long Chen. When those 4 swords stabbed through him, it also absorbed a huge amount of lightning. Upon returning to the lightning domain, they would need some time digesting this new energy. Furthermore, this also changed the lightning domain as this divine lightning was unleashed. Due to taking in more divine lightning than they could endure, the dragons unleashed the extra into the lightning domain, storing it there while they slowly absorbed it. As emperor of this domain, all their power was the Dragon Emperor's, so the Dragon Emperor forged ahead to another metamorphosis. At this moment, the Pill Fairy glanced at the slumbering Long Chen and also left with Wan Qing without a word. During the entire process, she had been like a spectator. She hadn't interfered. It was as if the Karmic Luck Pearl and the Sovereigns didn't pique her interest. Within Pill Valley's divine palace, there were 2 towering statues. Those were statues of the gods that Pill Valley worshipped, Lord Brahma and Fallen Daynate. At this moment, divine runes were quivering at their foreheads, giving off intimidating pressure. Others didn't even dare to look at the statues directly, as if the 2 gods were truly staring back at them. "Why didn't you take action? It was such a good opportunity," shouted Yu Xiaoyun as soon as the Pill Fairy and Wan Qing walked in. Although he was within the palace, he was well aware of everything that had happened in the martial heaven searing. If you had attacked earlier, before the heaven-devastating bracelet, the dragon woman wouldn't have had a chance to absorb so much karmic luck. With the support of both gods, you would have had at least a 40% chance of becoming the sovereign. Instead, you stood there like a blockhead. "What were you thinking?" roared Yu Xiaoyun furiously. In the face of her father's roaring, the Pill Fairy was completely indifferent. She didn't even look at him. Instead, she walked over to the divine statues and kowtowed. Without looking back, she said, "Remember, you might be my father, but you also are the god's servant. I am the god's daughter, so pay attention to your words. This matter is going all according to the god's arrangements. I do not need to report any of my actions to you." The Pill Fairy was just as cold to her own father as if he was a stranger. Yu Xiaoyun was ashen but helpless to retort. Although he had also been blessed by the gods and advanced to heaven merging, he was not qualified to speak with the gods. That was why whatever the Pill Fairy said was what happened, and he had no right to interfere. He was infuriated that the Pill Fairy had not tried to take the Karmic Luck Pearl, but his sharp words were returned right back at him by her. In front of these 2 divine statues, even if she was his daughter, he couldn't be rash. Her status was completely different. To put it frankly, he was also a servant of the divine daughter. After that, Yu Xiaoyun left and Wan Qing stood behind the Pill Fairy. As the palace descended into silence, the Pill Fairy stared at the 2 divine statues. No one knew what she was thinking. "Bastard!" Long Outyen furiously smashed apart a table beside him. "That Long Chen. If I obtained the Karmic Luck Pearl, I could have condensed 2 immortal flames and become a supreme immortal sprout. Now it's all been ruined by that wretch. Who was in charge of that matter back then? Didn't they say that he was definitely dead?" Only a few core members of the Long family and Long Outyen's mother were gathered within this hall. They were all gloomy. "Are you all trash? Didn't you all guarantee that he was dead back then? Explain yourselves," demanded Long Outyen's mother. Everyone present had participated in that matter back then. It had been a huge affair, so they had even killed some of their own people who were implicated in it. However, the person that should have been killed for sure now ended up alive. Not only that, but he had also become the Martial Heaven continent's strongest expert of the junior generation and an existence acknowledged by all 5 sovereigns. This fact drove Long Outyen's mother crazy. Talking about that is meaningless now. Long Chen can no longer become sovereign. As long as Outyen becomes one, Long Chen will sooner or later be killed. The top priority is for Outyen to become sovereign before the experts from other worlds. Otherwise, the Starfield core will be taken by them first. Once it's taken, the efforts of many generations of us will have been wasted. The blame for such a thing is something that none of us can afford to take, said the Long family head. That's right. Outyen, don't think about all that right now. Everything is going according to plan. First, go to the Heavenly Flame Demon Domain to become sovereign. That's the foundation that we've been preparing for 60,000 years. You have to be the first to become sovereign. Then you can unite the Martial Heaven continent and defeat the experts from other worlds. There is still a chance for us. Even if we can't have a double sovereign, just the core of the star field is enough for you. With it, upon ascending to the divine world, you will be treated like a king, said Long Outyen's mother. Fine. First I'll become sovereign, then I'll kill Long Chen. Long Outyen clenched his fists, killing intent blazing within his insidious eyes. On the Martial Heaven continent, the peak experts of the continent were gathered in the Martial Heaven Alliance's palace. The High Priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, the Music Master, Chu Jianying, the Old Man, Li Tianxian, and other living fossils that had been hidden on the continent were all present. These experts weren't born in the Great Era. In order to survive to such a time, they had sealed themselves, which extended their lifespan but resulted in their combat power dropping. Amongst these experts was an old-timer that hadn't participated in any of the Martial Heaven continent's issues for a long time. It was the Huayan Sect's sect master, Marun. He had also come today. The air was heavy, and no one spoke for a long time. Eventually, it was the old man who said, "Why do you all look so miserable? Isn't it just a fight? We'll just go all out. Even if we can't win, killing one means you go even, and killing two means that you've profited. No one in this world lives forever. What are you afraid of? When the battle starts, I, Wu Guangyuan, will be the first to charge out." "Aya, why are you pinching me?" Chu Jianying had glared at the old man several times throughout his speech, but he didn't even notice, causing her to pinch him. "Your bravery is commendable. However, you have no sons or daughters. You don't know what we're feeling. At our age, dying is just dying. But what about our descendants? There are babies that have yet to realize how beautiful this world is. They will also be destroyed if we lose. If we can increase our chance of them surviving by even the slightest, it's worth it." "Just bravery isn't enough," sighed a mid-heaven merging elder. At their age, they had long since seen the changes of the world and gotten tired of it. But they still had ties to this world. Even if they didn't mind their own deaths, they still cared about the life and death of their descendants. The reason why Chu Jianying was so angry was because the old man had essentially insulted all of them as cowards afraid of dying, as if he was the only one with the courage to fight. "I never would have thought that the Heaven Devastating Bracelet was simply in slumber for so many years. I thought that it was destroyed in that battle back then. Furthermore, it seems that its aura is greater than that of the 4 supreme divine items we have, and the Eastern Wasteland Bell is still missing. It truly is worrisome. The Eastern Wasteland Bell is the leader of the 5 supreme divine items, the only one capable of facing the Heaven Devastating Bracelet's attack directly back then. Moreover, we are surrounded by enemies both from the outside and inside. The Karmic Luck Pearl has now been destroyed as well. To break out of our current predicament, even though it might be discouraging to say it, it is truly, truly difficult," said another elder. That elder's words might be suspected to be destabilizing everyone's morale, but he was correct. The current Martial Heaven continent was under attack from the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the Blood Fiend Devil Lord, the Nine-Headed Lion, and Yi Ming, who represented an entire world of their own. They would all become sovereigns of their worlds. Furthermore, their worlds were completely unified. In other words, their path to sovereignty was completely smooth. In the past, every time a great tribulation descended, The continent would have a sovereign to push back the invading experts, protecting the continent. However, this time, the Karmic luck pearl was destroyed, so this generation would not have a sovereign. How would they stop the invading experts then? To use the old man's words, in front of absolute power, any trick was meaningless. These words once more proved their unchanging truth. Sect Master Li, do you have any ideas? People looked to Li Tianxian. He had been the Alliance's brain this entire time. Everyone was extremely convinced by his intelligence. No. Li Tianxian spread his hands with a faint smile. No? Then why are you smiling? Asked the old man. Li Tianxian laughed, surprisingly at ease. I don't have any plans, but that doesn't mean that Long Chen doesn't. With him on our side, it'll be fine. Long Chen hadn't died in this tribulation, and this fact made Li Tianxuan's confidence in Long Chen rise to a new level. The current Li Tianxian couldn't even form a desire to use his brain against these invaders. How do you know that Long Chen has a plan? Asked the old man. Don't ask me. In any case, I'm extremely confident in Long Chen. This confidence comes from the 5 sovereigns who have entrusted the continent to Long Chen. I feel like there is absolutely no need for any of us to worry so much. The Heaven Devastating Bracelet was forcibly activated and gave the karmic luck to the Dragon Woman, but even with the Heaven Devastating Bracelet's protection, she was still killed by Long Chen. I feel like that already proves it. At this most critical juncture, the only one capable of flipping heaven and earth is Long Chen. Thus, rather than feeling so anxious here, it would be better to go comfort your descendants. Successive generations have placed their faith in the sovereigns, entrusting their lives to them. Why were they capable of doing so, but we aren't capable of fully trusting Long Chen? Is it simply because he isn't a sovereign? Asked Li Tianxian. Well, everyone could only stare at him. His words were very reasonable. If they couldn't believe in Long Chen, then they could come up with their own solutions. If not, why not sincerely trust Long Chen? Even the 5 sovereigns trusted him. What was there to question? I feel like little Li is right. They are this era's main characters. What does it have to do with us? We can just do what Long Chen wants us to do, said the old man. The high priest shook his head. It also can't be put like that. We can entrust our hopes to Long Chen, but that doesn't mean we can stop caring about anything. After all, Long Chen is young and doesn't care about many details. We have to prepare everything in advance to support him better. Now that they've all advanced to heaven merging, it would be best for them to advance through this realm as quickly as possible. We cannot care about unstable foundations, as every single level that they can advance is another bit of hope. We have to prepare things for our children. All the foundations that everyone has built up can be taken out to support our talented descendants. Now isn't the time to be stingy. We must do our utmost to use everything we have before the next battle begins. Once it starts, Long Chen and the others will be the main force. But if they don't have enough assistance, this battle will still be lost. Every bit of power is important and will affect the final outcome. Understood. Everyone nodded. Whether or not the continent would survive would depend on the next battle. Being selfish and hiding any wealth at this time was purely courting death. Amongst these experts were powerful chiefs of their own ancient powers. They normally weren't even under the administration of the Martial Heaven Alliance, but they had been gathered here by the Alliance to discuss things. As for other powers belonging to the Martial Heaven Alliance, the orders had long since been passed down. The High Priest suddenly turned to Maruyun. In the next battle, is the Huayun sect planning on bringing out their capital? Maruyun smiled and profoundly said, Senior, don't worry, we have long since prepared our money. Money? What money? Asked the old man. However, the High Priest and Maruyun didn't reply nor did they mention this topic again. After a while, Chu Jianying finally managed to have the old man restrain his curiosity and not pursue this topic. The High Priest solemnly said, the Martial Heaven continent was just ravaged by a large battle. The Dragon Woman has been killed, along with most of the Sea Demon race. All that remains is the Sea Demon Emperor. He activated the Heaven Devastating Bracelet by sacrificing a great deal of his longevity and his realm. It is probably difficult for him to even stabilize at the late heaven-merging realm. However, that doesn't mean that we can relax our vigilance. We must send people to keep an eye on him. If we find him, then he must be killed immediately to remove this scourge. Chu Jianying nodded. Junior has sent people to keep an eye out. If we notice anything from the sea demon race, we will immediately report it to Senior. The high priest turned to the music master. Is the Southern Sea Zither still not acknowledging a master? The music master shook her head. I don't know why, but the Southern Sea Zither refuses to communicate with Ziyen. Although Ziyen can use a portion of its power, the Southern Sea Zither still seems to be in slumber. It is truly inexplicable. What of the Northern Source Sword? Asked the high priest. Taoist Heavenly Feather said, Jiqiu finally managed to link up with the Northern Source Sword after advancing to heaven merging. She went into seclusion yesterday in order to formally begin the process. The high priest seemed to talk to himself. The Western Desert Axe brought Wild to who knows where in order to recover as quickly as possible. The Central Plains Cauldron has accepted Mo Nyen but doesn't seem to like him too much. It might choose a different master at any time. Meanwhile, the Northern Source Sword still needs some time to finish the process of acknowledging a master. Based on the battle back then, the Southern Sea Zither should have taken the least damage, so it should be the first to recover and accept a master. Why does it still refuse? Is it waiting for a better master? Everyone looked at the music master who shook her head. The Southern Sea Zither once roamed the world under the identity of the 7-string sea-suppressing Zither. No one knows the reason for that. When the Southern Sea Zither formed a connection with Ziyen, it told Ziyen that its true name was the 7-string sea-suppressing Zither and not the Southern Sea Zither. Although the Southern Sea Zither has been in the elusive Music Immortal Palace this entire time, we must still treat it reverently. We can't ask it questions it doesn't wish to answer. If it doesn't wish to acknowledge a master, it must have its own reasons. The high priest didn't pursue that topic. He said, 4 of the supreme divine items have appeared. Only the Eastern Wasteland Bell refuses to appear. If it does appear, then even though our enemies are powerful, we should have a high chance of victory with all 5 supreme divine items gathered. Right now, that depends on the Eastern Wasteland Bell. But where is the Eastern Wasteland Bell? There hasn't been the slightest news of it after so many years, said someone helplessly. The high priest said, once the other 4 supreme divine items accept masters, they can join forces to sense its direction. Right now, we're only missing Ziyen. Seeing everyone looking toward her, the music master hastily said, I will definitely urge on Ziyen. No matter the price, she must master the Southern Sea Zither. After a bit more discussion about the battle plan, everyone left. Now all that remained were 4 people, the high priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, the old man, and Chu Jianying. She is not speaking the truth, said Taoist Heavenly Feather. The old man and Chu Jianying were startled. They guessed who she was referring to. While everyone was leaving, Taoist Heavenly Feather had only been staring at the music master. The high priest nodded. The elusive Music Immortal Palace's history stretches back all the way to the Immortal Era. With that kind of long inheritance, they can be considered one of the most important members of the Martial Heaven continent. However, they have remained indifferent this entire time. Before this, it was still reasonable to say that they transcended the mortal world and disdained involving themselves in petty affairs. But for their attitude to remain the same even now is thought-provoking. The elusive Music Immortal Palace seemed to be not the least bit concerned about the Martial Heaven continent. It was as if they didn't care about its life or death. Even if their mastery of the music Tao meant breaking free from the mortal world of dust, this kind of indifference was not right. Do you think that it is the elusive Music Immortal Palace that did something to the Southern Sea Zither, resulting in it not acknowledging a master? Probed Taoist Heavenly Feather. That is not very likely. The high priest shook his head. The Southern Sea Zither has preserved the most power out of the 4 supreme divine items so far. The elusive Music Immortal Palace should not be able to interfere in that manner. Then why is it still waiting? Asked Taoist Heavenly Feather helplessly. If it continued to wait, then they wouldn't be able to find the Eastern Wasteland Bell, and their survival chances in the upcoming fall would sharply decline. Perhaps only the Southern Sea Zither knows the reason. Find a chance to tell Long Chen to be on guard against the music master, said the high priest. Could it be? The old man and Chu Jianying's hearts pounded. Was there really a problem with the music master? Don't harm others, but be on guard against others trying to harm you. Taking note of her isn't a bad thing. The two of you will be busy during this time because the entire Martial Heaven continent's powers depend on you. As I have to return and pay my respects to the wine god, I won't be able to help you during this time. Everything will be up to you, said the high priest. The old man and Chu Jianying hastily sent the high priest off. Once he left, Taoist Heavenly Feather also departed. With a battle imminent, she also had to prepare. While the old man and Chu Jianying were busy at work, Long Chen remained in slumber. In this slumber he had countless dreams. There were countless scenes of Sovereign Yunshang, Qing Su, Mo Li, Han Wei, and Ziyang. Scenes of their youth, scenes of their journey, scenes of them becoming sovereigns and protecting the continent. There were also many bloody scenes. In just a short 3 days, he had seen countless images. They were random, not linking up. However, these were the experiences of the sovereigns. The 5 sovereigns had a somewhat similar past as him. They had all met various misfortunes in their youth and had tasted the bitterness of life. Also, they had advanced through a path of their enemies' corpses. The only difference was that when they reached the very peak of the cultivation world, their light radiated so brightly that they won over all others on the continent, causing all the races of the continent to swear allegiance to them. As for Long Chen, no matter how his light blazed, he still ended up with countless enemies. No one submitted to him, so he could only kill and kill with no rest. Sovereigns are sovereigns. Even if they were harmed 99 times, they would still give the others another chance. They used their own magnanimity to embrace this world, and they still believed in the beauty of this world. Long Chen suddenly smiled, awakening from his slumber. He seemed to understand what the sovereigns felt. Oh, what's this? Pill formulas? Long Chen suddenly noticed that more things had appeared in his spiritual memories. He immediately sat up, causing Meng Qi and the others who were guarding by his side to cry out. I've made you worry. Seeing Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan, and the others guarding his side worriedly, Long Chen felt a burst of emotions. It's fine as long as you're awake. Do you feel anything off? Meng Qi sent her spiritual strength into Long Chen's body, trying to detect any abnormalities. Before waking up, his spiritual strength and spiritual yuan had been extremely weak, almost non-existent. His killing blow on the dragon woman had borrowed the power of the heavens. However, Long Chen was not approved by the heavenly Taoists. Hence, it was not borrowing but forcibly snatching, resulting in the heavenly Taoists cursing him. Fortunately, this heavenly Tao curse was unable to pervade deep into his body, and it was slowly ground away by Long Chen's energy. After it was wiped out, his body began to recover like normal. Even so, his current spiritual strength and spiritual yuan were only recovering drop by drop. I'm fine. I used one of the sovereign's techniques. The side effects aren't that huge, said Long Chen. It really was dangerous. You have to rest this time. Keep an eye on your body to make sure no serious side effects will pop up in the form of hidden wounds. You can't be careless, said Meng Qi. During the tribulation, Long Chen had fought consecutive battles, accumulating countless wounds. His battle against the sovereigns in particular had been desperate. Long Chen smiled comfortingly. I'm fine. The sovereigns were actually carving their own martial Taoists and divine abilities into me during the battle. They wouldn't truly harm me. Then you've learned all the sovereign's techniques? Tang Wana was delighted by this. Her eyes began to shine. Long Chen reached out and intimately pinched Tang Wana's nose. Don't set your sights on the sovereign's techniques. Why not? Said Tang Wana disappointedly. The sovereigns created their own unique techniques that are only suited for themselves. These unique techniques were made for them, and so others can't use them. The technique that I used to borrow energy from the heavens is one of the few ones I can use, and I had to modify it a bit to make it usable for me. Long Chen had had a similar thought to Tang Wana, but these techniques had extremely harsh requirements to use. It could be said that all the sovereigns had blazed unique paths for themselves, and those paths were only traversable by them. Hence, others didn't have the power to imitate them. This was why the sovereigns hadn't left behind their inheritances. Their accomplishments could not be imitated by others. If they tried, all that awaited them was death. However, while the techniques themselves couldn't be used by Long Chen, he could gain enlightenment from them. His world extermination flame lotus was created by himself, and it was also a technique that he couldn't transmit to others. If he recorded the technique on paper and passed it down, who knew how many people would die trying to use it? Passing it down would only harm them. What a pity! I really thought that the 5 sovereigns have left their inheritances to you so that you could continue their legacy. That way, even if you don't become a sovereign, you can still fight the blood fiend devil lord and the others once they become sovereigns, sighed Tang Wana. They can also become sovereigns? Asked Long Chen. Meng Qi explained the final words that the blood fiend devil lord and the others had said before leaving. After hearing that, Long Chen's expression grew grave. So they are also people chosen by their worlds, destined to become sovereigns. But since the martial heaven continent is the core of the star field, the levels of karmic luck are different. That is why their previous invasions have all ended in failure. It wasn't that they didn't have enough numbers, but that they didn't have any experts capable of matching the sovereigns of the martial heaven continent. Long Chen, don't overthink it. Even if they become sovereigns, we will still be able to fight them. After all, the martial heaven continent also has plenty of powerful experts. There are seniors like the High Priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, and the Music Master. The martial heaven continent is our home territory. Our chances of victory are still very high, said Meng Qi, not wanting Long Chen to feel too much pressure. That's right, you still have us. We'll protect you. Now that you're awake, I'll refine the divine bone. I'll also merge my spirit bone, spirit blood, and spirit root. Then I'll kill that bastard Long Outyin. Tang Wana clenched her fist furiously. All of them detested Long Outyin to the max. I'll ask Boss Wanner to protect little brother in the future. Long Chen nodded solemnly. Having just woken up, Long Chen's face was still pale. The others decided to leave so that he could properly rest. Once they were gone, Long Chen checked his body, confirming that other than being in a weak state, there were no problems. He was pleasantly surprised. The sovereigns were practically gods. They were even capable of coming up with a technique to steal the power of the heavens. These techniques were stronger than those so-called divine arts. It was no wonder that when Long Chen asked Sovereign Yunshang whether the sovereigns were stronger than gods, Sovereign Yunshang merely smiled and did not reply. However, the latter's expression clearly showed that he felt disdain for those so-called gods. Long Chen's battle against the sovereigns allowed him to fully comprehend just how great the sovereigns were. Even though his level of power was also extremely high, he was still lacking compared to them when they were alive. That distance was truly great. The sovereigns hadn't been trying to kill him during his tribulation. If that was their actual goal, he would probably be nothing more than dust right now. The sovereigns have displayed all their life's comprehension to me. They must have some deeper meaning. They knew that I wouldn't be able to cultivate those techniques, but still transmitted them. What are they trying to tell me? The sovereigns were wise and farsighted. Every single action of theirs contained deeper meaning. They definitely wouldn't do something meaningless. However, every single one of their techniques was amazing. Researching a single one would take a huge amount of time and effort. By the time he went through all of them, it would have been centuries, and the martial heaven continent would have been destroyed. In other words, what the sovereigns intended was not for him to cultivate or improve these techniques. I can't figure it out. I'll think about it later. Let's see if I awaken the 7th star's pill formula. If I can condense the 7th star, I'll still be able to wipe them out even if I can't become sovereign. Long Chen shut his eyes. After an incense stick's worth of time, his expression grew ugly. He didn't find the 7th star's pill formula in his memories. If there's no pill formula, does that mean that I haven't reached the threshold for cultivating the 7th star? Long Chen was a bit bewildered. Long Chen once more scanned his memories and didn't find the 7th star's pill formula. However, he suddenly noticed another pill formula that made him jump up. Heaven Merging Pill. 13th tier medicinal pill, Heaven Merging Pill. I'm saved. Long Chen cried out in excitement. The Heaven Merging Pill could help him rapidly increase his realm. If he rose all the way to the 12th heaven stage, so what if the Blood Fiend Devil Lord and the others became sovereigns? Couldn't he still beat them? Wisteria Phoenix Gallbladder Fruit, Earth Bone Dragon Saliva Incense, Crouching Dragon Star Soul Grass, Peak Earth 8 Bitter Root. I have this one and this one. Long Chen checked the pill formula and found that many of the ingredients were only at the 12th tier. Only a few of them were extremely rare ingredients. Some of those rare ingredients were things he already had, but he simply hadn't known what to do with them. The Earth Bone Dragon Saliva Incense was actually a type of vegetation that grew like coral inside the 10,000 dragon nest, and it had its own spirituality. Long Chen had obtained it in the Star-Field Divine World but hadn't known its use. Only now did he find out that after slicing it open, a liquid like colored glass would flow out. That was the main ingredient for the Heaven Merging Pill. I actually have them all? Can it be that the blessing of the 5 sovereigns has caused my luck to take a better turn? Seeing that he perfectly had all the ingredients, Long Chen was pleasantly surprised. He didn't recall such a lucky thing having occurred to him before. Things never went this smoothly, so he felt a bit strange about this. Refining pills. He took out the Moon and Star refining furnace, but then the Demon Moon furnace also popped out. Big brother Long Chen, you're so biased. Why won't you use me? Demanded Ling. Ling, don't fuss. First, watch what we do. The senior furnace will go first with its greater experience. Learn what you can, and then the two of you can refine together, said Long Chen. Linger needed to refine pills in order to strengthen herself. Meanwhile, the Moon and Star refining furnace had also recovered to around 60 to 70% after refining pills all this time. Its capabilities stunned even Long Chen. The Moon and Star refining furnace was excellent for refining pills, and it was already warming up as soon as he mentioned the Heaven Merging Pills. Furthermore, the heat was at the perfect level. Clearly, the Moon and Star refining furnace had ever refined the Heaven Merging Pill. However, since it hadn't fully recovered, its memories were incomplete, so it was acting instinctively. Despite that, it would allow Long Chen to grasp this pill refinement as quickly as possible. At this moment, one medicinal ingredient after another was refined into powder inside the pill furnace. All the essence was locked inside the powder, and not a trace of it escaped. If the fire requirements are so high right at the start, it will probably be insanely difficult when the pill condenses. Long Chen was excited but also prepared. Based on his past experience, when starting off to refine the ingredients, they could usually be purified with around 30% of the maximum flame intensity. 50% was for the merging of the refined powders. However, they were already starting off with 70% of the maximum heat capacity. It had to be known that when the pill condensed, the greater the intensity of the heat, the more difficult it would be to control. The slightest carelessness and the pill would be turned to ash. This was Long Chen's first time refining such a difficult pill. Fortunately, the Moon and Star refining furnace had some experience with it. With its cooperation, they were making astonishing progress. When all the medicinal ingredients were refined, Long Chen increased the intensity of the flame. Even when he was at 80% power, it was not enough. Hence, he slowly increased the fire until it reached 90%. However, the Moon and Star refining furnace was still requiring more as the flame was not strong enough. After that, Long Chen took a deep breath and unleashed the maximum flame intensity he could muster. In that instant, he became wreathed in flames. With his attention concentrated entirely on the furnace, he didn't notice that the room he was in was starting to melt. Because of it, an alarm started to ring out. Hearing it, Meng Qi and the others rushed in. Long Chen's room had melted, and fire-red lava was spreading on the ground. Long Chen is refining pills. He's at a critical juncture, so he can't be disturbed. Everyone should get back, said Meng Qi. They were currently in the cultivation rooms of the Martial Heaven Alliance's headquarters. There were formations protecting this place. However, those formations were incinerated like paper in front of Long Chen's flames. Seeing the commotion spreading, Meng Qi and the others could only alert everyone and have them retreat. "What is that little fellow doing?" demanded Chu Jianying when she rushed over. She was vexed. Was he planning on burning down their headquarters? It's too bad Big Sister Jiqiu isn't here. She might be able to stop the flames from spreading, said Tang Wan. Boom. Suddenly, an explosion came from Long Chen's pill furnace, and heavenly Tao energy flowed over, forming a giant whirlpool around the moon and star refining furnace. The pill condensed? The flames suddenly retracted. There was a giant hole in the ground and a burning smell in the air now. Everyone rushed over through the intense heat. "Boss, what pill did you refine?" asked Guoran. With his understanding of Long Chen, he was sure it was something good. "Heaven-merging pill," said Long Chen. At this moment, startled cries rang out. There was actually a medicinal pill for advancing in the heaven-merging realm? Was it real? "Boss, give me one. I'm willing to be test subject number 1 for everyone," exclaimed Guoran. After that, the pill furnace's lid popped open. Inside, there were no medicinal pills and only some ashy dregs. "That's..." Guoran stared. "A failure." Long Chen shrugged helplessly. "You little brat, you destroyed the entire training room for a failure?" demanded Chu Jianying. "You shouldn't blame a child when they fail. Say some encouraging words, all right?" said the old man. Chu Jianying felt that she had gone a bit overboard, and so for the first time she didn't retort to the old man. Hee, it actually wasn't a complete failure. Even these pill dregs are very useful. Furthermore, I've found that the heaven-merging pill is not to be consumed by ordinary people, said Long Chen. Although it was a failure, he was excited. The moon and star refining furnace had told him that the medicinal formula he was using was identical to the one that it remembered, but the method of refining it was different. That was what resulted in the failure. But this failure now told him what he had to do. "Boss, you wouldn't be leaving us these dregs to eat, right?" probed Guoran. "This thing can't be eaten. If you eat it, you'll very likely die," said Long Chen. "What?" Guoran jumped, tossing aside the pill dregs in his hand. "This heaven-merging pill of mine is different from other heaven-merging pills. It has merged with my world energy. If others consume it, they will be rejected by that world energy, resulting in their astral space shattering. In the worst case, they'll die," explained Long Chen. It was the same pill formula but a different refining method. Long Chen's heaven-merging pill had his mark in it, so only he could consume it. Its effect was strong enough that even the pill dregs could kill someone. If someone was eating the complete pill, its medicinal energy would cause their astral space to instantly explode, killing them without a doubt. Long Chen also hadn't expected this. When the pill condensed, all his 108,000 astral spaces sent energy into the pill furnace. Due to too many unexpected factors appearing, the refinement ended up in failure. Other people couldn't possibly contain the power of his astral spaces. Every single one of his astral spaces was both its own unique entity yet also connected to the others. If it was possible to inject the power of one's astral space into another person's, the imbalance of power could easily cause death for them. But each person's astral space was their own world, one that only their divine sense could enter, so other people couldn't possibly attack them there. However, if you were to take the initiative to draw someone else's astral energy into your body, then that would be no different than suicide. "What are you talking about? Tell us, what is this thing?" demanded Tang Wan'er impatiently. These pill dregs can be diluted into medicinal water. You've all absorbed the 10,000 dragon essence blood, so you understand, hinted Long Chen. "No, I don't." Meng Qi and the others were still befuddled. Long Chen explained, "Once the medicinal dregs are diluted, they won't be so violent. You'll be able to handle absorbing their power. Although it's a failure, it still has the power of the heaven-merging realm. You can still absorb it just like consuming a pill. Furthermore, it has my world energy inside it. My guess is that after someone absorbs it, their astral world will also change. But the details will require a test subject. Guoran, I believe that you volunteered? Come over here. Guoran instantly turned green, but Long Chen didn't give him a chance to escape. When Long Chen found a small lake, he tossed the medicinal dregs inside, and the lake immediately began to boil. Countless bubbles surged out, and many of those bubbles even contained heavenly Dao runes that exploded. Boss, I feel like Aya. Guoran didn't even get to finish speaking before Long Chen tossed him in. Water splashed, and Guoran vanished beneath the water. However, after falling in, nothing else happened, and there were no signs of him trying to swim up. When they looked, they saw that he had sunk to the bottom of the lake and was gesturing at them, seemingly asking for help. At first, they thought that he was just joking, until his face turned purple. A dozen dragon blood warriors also entered, only to plummet like stones in the water. What's going on? After Long Chen waved his hand, Guoran and the others came flying out of the water. Guoran coughed hard, like a drowning person who had reached the shore. Boss, what was that? As soon as we enter the water, our cultivation base is sealed. We were no different than ordinary non-cultivators, said a dragon blood warrior. The other dragon blood warriors that had entered the water nodded. As soon as they entered the water, their cultivation techniques, their battle skills, their status as Empyreans, and their heavenly Dao energy were all stripped away. They felt like they were about to drown. That doesn't sound right. What about the power of your dragon blood? Asked Long Chen. It was impossible to sense any of it. It was all stripped away, answered that dragon blood warrior. Long Chen suddenly grabbed Bao Buping and tossed him into the lake. Bao Buping cursed, Long Chen, you rogue. Bao Buping immediately jumped out as soon as he fell in. He was soaked and was about to continue cursing when he said, I feel fine. Guoran and the others were dumbfounded. Why was Bao Buping completely fine? No, my astral space. Bao Buping suddenly noticed a slight change in his astral space. He wasn't sure what the change was though. My astral space has gotten bigger, suddenly exclaimed a dragon blood warrior. Mine's also bigger, said another dragon blood warrior. The others who had jumped in also noticed this slight change. An astral space was the core of a cultivator. Upon reaching the life star realm, its foundation was formed, and unless you encountered some kind of heaven-defying opportunity, it was difficult to increase its size past a certain extent. However, just that brief soak in the lake had allowed their astral spaces to grow. That was absolutely shocking. Boss, what's going on? Asked Guoran. Long Chen was silent for a moment. This heaven-merging pill of mine is very odd. It has most likely absorbed too many energies during the refinement. Even I'm not clear on it. You were suppressed by the water because it has heavenly Dao energy in it, as well as my world energy and true dragon energy. On the other hand, Bao Buping doesn't train in the dragon blood body tempering art, so he isn't as suppressed as you guys. Other than the heavenly Dao suppression, he can still use his cultivation technique and such. Either way, my world energy can cause your astral spaces to grow. The water now has the power of heaven merging, so you can absorb it to increase your cultivation bases and grow your astral spaces. Although this refinement counts as a failure in the end, it's extremely beneficial to us. Everyone was delighted to hear this, and quite a few of the Martial Heaven Alliance's disciples were impatient to start. However, just as they were talking, the bubbles in the water faded. It returned to calm. The medicinal energy has run out. A trash pill was only able to maintain the effects for a very short time. But I'll be refining more. I'll trouble the Alliance head to find some more suitable places for all the disciples to cultivate, said Long Chen. Only then did Chu Jianying recover from her shock. She had heard of the heaven-merging pill, but those stories never mentioned such a heaven-defying effect. Since this was the case, she no longer wanted to blame Long Chen and quickly made some arrangements. After all, they had to find some baths for people to train. They had to separate the men and women, and it would be best if the different powers had separate places. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, I'll need your help to refine pills this time. Long Chen turned to them. Due to his previous failure, his spiritual strength was low. However, with their assistance, he would definitely succeed. Long Chen, didn't you want to refine pills? Why have you brought us fishing? If the Alliance head learns of this, she's going to scold you, teased Meng Qi. Long Chen had brought Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Dong Mingyu, and Yu Shaoqian with him to a lake with nice scenery. He then took out his fishing gear and used some fruit as bait. Meng Qi and the others found it both startling and funny, not knowing what he was thinking. They all sat on a boulder, with Long Chen resting his head on Meng Qi's leg. At this moment, his eyes were half closed as he leisurely accepted the peeled grape that Meng Qi gave him, not forgetting to kiss her hand, which caused her to wrap his head. You always act like a rogue. Always acting upright is too tiring. I need to relax every now and then. It's been a long time since I've soaked in the come out to play. Long Chen changed his sentence midway. There was no longer any sunlight to soak in. Now, darkness shrouded the heavens. Even the fish in the water were rather listless, and the wild beasts in the mountains hid in their caves most of the time. Fortunately, fishing wasn't necessarily about the fish. Just the activity relaxed a person. At this moment, Long Chen felt weary both mentally and physically. He had rarely felt such a feeling ever since coming into the cultivation world. That was a feeling of helplessness. There were too many things waiting for him to handle. It felt like he had countless burdens to carry and was collapsing under that weight. Long Chen, it's been hard on you. Meng Qi gently stroked Long Chen's cheek. She and the others were all worried for him. Long Chen had the weight of the 5 sovereigns' trust on him, including the future of the uncountable lives on the continent. They couldn't imagine what it would feel like to have such pressure on them. Hee, it's all right. As long as you're by my side, I feel like my heart is steady. I don't have faith in any gods. You are all my faith. You give me limitless power. Don't worry, this is just a little breather. I, Long Chen, will stand at the peak of this world. Once this tribulation is over, how about we have a proper marriage ceremony? I'll definitely hold the grandest wedding for you. The entire world will give us their blessings, said Long Chen. Despite all of them having given their hearts to him eternally, they still blushed when he brought up this topic. As the biggest, why don't you answer for all of you? Long Chen smiled and held Meng Qi's hand. All of them called Meng Qi Big Sister. On the Martial Heaven continent, this kind of seniority was considered very important. Since Meng Qi was the one who had an arranged marriage agreement with Long Chen from the start, all of them called her Big Sister. In the secular world, the expression 3 wives for concubines usually referred to 1 principal wife, 2 ordinary wives, and 4 concubines. The principal wife was also called the first wife, the primary wife, and the head wife, while the ordinary wives were sometimes called side wives. As for the concubines, there was even less that needed to be said. Their position was very low. Although the cultivation world didn't have as many formalities, there was still some importance on this kind of seniority. Based on Meng Qi's kindness and honesty, all of them were willing to respect her as the first. Calling her the biggest naturally had some teasing note to it, causing Meng Qi to redden. If she opened her mouth and accepted, that would be recognizing that she was the principal wife. How could such a thing be recklessly decided? Don't mess around, rebuked Meng Qi. I'm being serious, said Long Chen. Meng Qi righteously said, then let me ask you, what about Lin Yuan and Ming Songyue? Furthermore, a wedding requires the blessing of the father and mother. You haven't even found our father and mother. How can we have a wedding? Meng Qi felt that it wasn't suitable to call them his father and mother, but when she said our father and mother, she also felt awkward since they hadn't gone through that formality yet, causing her to redden further. Hearing that, Long Chen fell silent. Lin Yuan and Ming Songyue were in the netherworld. Furthermore, the 2 of them had become his women. A wedding couldn't possibly be lacking them. Moreover, Meng Qi was right about his parents. If he didn't know about them, then that would have been one thing. But if they were still alive, it would be completely unfilial of him to hold a wedding without them present. Long Chen helplessly said, I know, you want to give us that status. But we really don't care. As long as we're with you, that alone is better than anything else, said Meng Qi. Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Yu Shaoqian, and Dong Mingyu also nodded. Long Chen was extremely moved. Every single one of them was like a heavenly fairy, while he was who he was. He didn't know how he had gained their love, so he didn't know what to say. Big brother Long Chen, you can tell us anything. Even if we can't help you, at least we can share the burden if you want. Maybe we can do some small things. Dong Mingyu held Long Chen's hand. Before this, other than Meng Qi, none of them knew that Long Chen had had his spirit blood, spirit root, and spirit bone taken as a child. Nor did they know about his past, which was even worse than being bullied in the Phoenix Cry Empire. Long Chen kept many of his problems inside of him, suffering on his own while he smiled on the outside. That made them all feel aggrieved. They had been tricked by his outside appearance, not knowing just how weary his heart was. That's right. We're all yours. What can't you tell us? Sijiao. Long Chen nodded. There's not that much. My thoughts are just a bit chaotic right now, as there are many things to do. With you by my side, I feel free to be myself. You know how to talk. First you praise us, and then you don't actually tell us anything, said Tang Wana, dissatisfied with this response. Alright, there are a number of things I have to do. First, I have to refine pills. Not just the heaven-merging pills, but other very important pills as well, which will take a large amount of time. Second, I need to think of a way to find the Eastern Wasteland Bell. But the fragment of it that I have is unable to sense it. If it doesn't return in time for the next battle, we will be at an immense disadvantage. Third, the 5 sovereigns have transmitted all their techniques to me. As I used them to corroborate my own techniques, I noticed that perhaps I've cultivated my 9-star hegemon body art incorrectly. I might need to change my cultivation path again. Change it again? Didn't you already change it before? Asked Meng Qi. Last time, in order to forcibly gain more power, Long Chen had changed the proper cultivation path of the 9-star hegemon body art. That had been so dangerous that it had almost cost him his life. If he changed it again, wouldn't it be just as dangerous? If something happened to him, then there really would be no hope left for this world. Long Chen nodded. Last time, I broke the proper sequence of the 9-star hegemon body art's cultivation path, causing it to deviate from its original path. When I condensed the 6-star battle armor, it was based on the image in my dreams of all 9 stars gathering. I didn't overthink it and just placed the 6 stars based on that arrangement. Although I succeeded, I could vaguely tell that something was off, but not what exactly. Using the Sovereign's techniques as a reference, I understand. This current arrangement of the 6 stars is the simplest, lowest, and most useless arrangement. When I fought against the Sovereigns, I thought to myself, why was I so weak? I'm the 9-star heir, and I've had countless hints indicating to me just how terrifying this cultivation technique is. But when I asked myself honestly, I didn't think that I would be a match for the Sovereigns in a 1-against-1. That doesn't make sense. Now I understand that I have a divine blade, but I'm fighting with the scabbard. That's why I'm so weak. These words would definitely make the experts like the blood fiend devil lord cough up blood if they heard them. Someone who had blocked the attacks of all 5 sovereigns describe himself as weak? Did that leave any room for others to live? Meng Qi and the others didn't have much of an understanding of the 9-star hegemon body art. Its origins were unclear, and Long Chen didn't dare to explain the full story to them for fear of karma. Even changing an ordinary cultivation technique is extremely difficult and dangerous, let alone yours, said Meng Qi anxiously. I know. It's fine, promised Long Chen. I've figured out the rough shape. With the experience from the Sovereigns, it became clear and simple to me. I even suspect that the Sovereigns were intentionally drawing my attention to this. However, even with the base figured out, I still need to slowly figure out the details. Long Chen sighed here, while Meng Qi and the others exchanged a helpless glance. Whether it was refining pills, looking for the Eastern Wasteland Bell, or changing the 9-star hegemon body art, they could only listen to his troubles. They had no way of helping him. The martial heaven continent is surrounded by trouble, and time is incomparably precious. I wish I could clone myself. Long Chen suddenly jumped up, his eyes brightening. Haha, I've thought of it. Thought of what? Asked Meng Qi and the others. I can condense some clones of myself to help me handle things. Long Chen suddenly excitedly hugged Meng Qi and gave her a kiss, following up with Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Yu Shaoqian, and Dong Mingyu. They blushed, but seeing him as excited as a child, they also grew excited. However, Meng Qi said, condensing clones isn't so simple. A mistake can cause your realm to drop. Most clones were condensed at lower realms. By the heaven-merging realm, it was extremely rare. Most stopped by the Life-Star realm, as the risks were too great beyond that. No need to worry. Sovereign Qing Su has a cloning art that I can use as a reference. It has no side effects. Long Chen suddenly formed hand seals and instantly transformed into two. Haha, it's done. Both Long Chens laughed like mirror images. That's just a projection clone. Meng Qi and the others didn't understand. Was such a clone useful at all? Don't be impatient. Long Chen smiled. Evil Moon, Ling, Little Heaven. Evil Moon, the demon moon furnace, and the heaven-flipping seal appeared and then merged into his clone. The clone frowned. Long Chen, what are you doing? That voice was Evil Moon's. However, the clone suddenly cutely bounced and said, "Wow, this is fun." Seeing his clone put its chin on both its hands with that kind of expression made Long Chen hastily say, "Don't have me act cute like that." Meng Qi and the others had never seen Long Chen act in such a way, so they laughed. "Evil Moon, you control the clone," said Long Chen. Seeing himself act like that was not good. "Nope, I refuse. This leather bag is ugly," declined Evil Moon directly. "Ha, this body is fine. Little Heaven is the best and won't fight with me over it," said Ling. This clone of Long Chen's began to hop around excitedly, which made Meng Qi and the others roll on the ground in laughter. Little Heaven was reserved and didn't like talking, while Evil Moon disdained having to control a clone. "Ling, you can control this clone, but you have to remember, you are me in the view of outsiders. Don't cause them to see through your identity," warned Long Chen. "Understood. So when there aren't outsiders, I can act as I please." The clone giggled, raising Long Chen's goosebumps. A bad premonition rose in his heart. As expected, the clone ran over to Meng Qi, giggling. "Sisters, today is a happy day. I'll dance for you." Long Chen grabbed his clone by the neck, dragging it back. For the first time in his life, he felt an urge to choke himself. "Stop messing around." Meng Qi and the others were still laughing. It was their first time seeing Long Chen's face go through so many expressions. Seeing Long Chen angry, Linger stuck out her tongue, causing Meng Qi and the others to almost faint. Heavens! Long Chen covered his face, weeping without tears. If it weren't for the fact that he had no other options, he would destroy this new clone of his. "Big brother, don't get angry." "I was just teasing you," said Ling, pulling on his hand. "That's enough. I don't like holding a man's hands, even if it's my own," said Long Chen. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself and said, "Let's prepare to start refining the heaven-merging pills." Boom. The moon and star refining furnace shuddered, and Meng Qi's forehead was glistening with sweat. Her spiritual strength had dropped a full 60% in order to finish this final step. After that, the lid slowly opened and 9 glistening medicinal pills were reflected in everyone's eyes. Meng Qi and the others cheered. They had refined 9 high-grade heaven-merging pills with pill rings. Succeeding in the very first attempt delighted the women. At this moment, Long Chen picked one up and closely examined it. He nodded. As expected, this pill can be consumed. "Long Chen, why are the pills that we refine even better than the ones that you refined?" asked Meng Qi. Long Chen's clone was currently being controlled by Linger, and as an item spirit, her spiritual strength was limited. That was why Meng Qi was supporting the refinement with her spiritual strength. They succeeded on the first try with Linger controlling things, but Long Chen had ended up failing in his first attempt. That was curious to them. That is because the clone that Linger is controlling doesn't have my astral energy. There is no additional energy for the pill to absorb, thus there is no world energy causing it to be inedible, said Long Chen. This clone's essence, qi, and spirit were controlled by Evil Moon, Little Heaven, and Ling. However, the clone had no astral spaces. Without the energy of his astral spaces entering the pill, it was easier to refine. Mengqi, you rest. In a bit, you and Chuyao can try to work together. This time, we'll aim to refine a top-grade pill, said Long Chen. An hour later, another furnace of pills was finished. However, this time the sky rumbled and lightning tribulation clouds appeared. The appearance of a top-grade pill resulted in the jealousy of the heavens. Long Chen completely ignored this pill tribulation. He opened the lid, and 9 beams of light shot out into the tribulation clouds. What a wild power! It actually attacked the pill tribulation? Mengqi and the others were startled. Top-grade pills had a certain level of spirituality and were normally afraid of heavenly tribulation. However, this furnace of pills actually transformed into swords stabbing into the heavens. At this moment, lightning was crashing down, but it was shattered by the swords. Even the tribulation clouds were broken. Not good. They're running, cried out Mengqi and the others. The tribulation was unable to stop these pills. Most top-grade pills would be destroyed during tribulation, and even if they survived, they would be normally exhausted. But these pills had destroyed the tribulation clouds and ran. All of a sudden, a lightning dragon appeared and devoured the 9 swords. The dragon then vanished, and 9 pills appeared in Long Chen's hand. Those pills all emitted a majestic aura. They were translucent. Inside, it was possible to see mountains and rivers, flowers and birds. It was like they contained an entire world, with light and spiritual qi flowing within them. Top-grade tribulation pills? Just like that? Yu Shaoqian covered her mouth, completely shocked. A top-grade pill was extremely rare. Some alchemists could spend a lifetime without refining one. Any top-grade pills that were refined were viewed as treasures to be passed down. They rarely were allowed to undergo tribulation, but Long Chen could refine 9 top-grade tribulation pills just like that. Would eating them allow us to rapidly increase our realm? Asked Mengqi. Long Chen shook his head. The high-grade heaven-merging pills can be consumed, but these top-grade tribulation pills contain too much of the will of the heavenly Daos. If not controlled properly, they might explode in your body. Hence, they should instead be placed in formations that extract their energy bit by bit for others to absorb. Even so, their effect is dozens of times greater than the high-grade pills. Then let's refine some more. We can take turns resting and refining. We can also call Cloud and Lu Ruyan over, said Tang Wan'er excitedly. No, they've just advanced. Their cultivation path is different from ours, so we shouldn't disturb them at this important time. We'll take turns with just us, said Long Chen. Mengqi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, Dong Mingyu, and Yu Shaoqian took turns supporting Linge with their spiritual strength. Meanwhile, Linge focused on controlling Long Chen's clone and refining the pills with the moon and star refining furnace. The reason that she needed to control Long Chen's clone to refine the heaven-merging pill was because it required a certain conduit to heaven and earth. Long Chen's clone provided that conduit, and that was what allowed the pill to contain more energy from the heavenly Daos. This also meant that the heaven-merging pill was one of the few pills that the moon and star refining furnace and Linger were unable to refine completely on their own. Mengqi and the others refined 5 furnaces of pills before they needed a break. Now it was Long Chen's turn. However, this time, Long Chen used the demon moon furnace. He said to Ling, I will be the main force, while you assist me. Focus on controlling the furnace. If you are unable to split your attention, leave the clone to Evil Moon to control. After saying that, Long Chen focused on himself completely. This time, he was refining a demonic pill. Although its medicinal energy was terrifying, there were many unsure factors that could make him fail the refinement. At this moment, the pill furnace rumbled. Long Chen's flame energy burned to its fullest as the pill condensed, and his spiritual strength was fully unleashed. At the same time, his clone's spiritual strength also aided the refinement. The pill furnace then rumbled intensely. Even the heavens and the earth quivered with every shake of the furnace. The distant mountains began to collapse. Boom! Suddenly, cracks spread in the ground, covering this entire area. The demon moon furnace shuddered so intensely it was like some weapon was attacking its walls on the inside. "Damn, these pills really are ruthless. It hurts," exclaimed Ling. The refinement was complete. 9 pills were striking the furnace like shooting stars, trying to break free. "Release one of them," said Long Chen. When it appeared, the void darkened as lightning crashed down. Black qi gushed out of the pill, and it transformed into human shape. The human form it took was actually Long Chen. However, this Long Chen's eyes were red, and it emitted a demonic aura. Surprisingly, this figure ignored the lightning in the sky and chose to immediately strike Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen received its punch with his fist. As a result, the ground beneath his feet exploded. Just at that moment, the pill sent a foot kicking toward his crotch with lightning speed. Long Chen hastily raised his own leg to block. Suddenly, Long Chen's expression changed and his hand shot up toward his ear. A hand stopped just 3 inches from Long Chen's face. Seeing this scene, Meng Qi and the others covered their mouths in shock, filled with disbelief. That was clearly Long Chen's divine face-slapping art, a silent and ephemeral attack. Long Chen himself was almost struck by it. Long Chen furiously pulled down that hand, smashing it into the ground. As a result, that Long Chen exploded, transforming into a medicinal pill. "Get them all out here," barked Long Chen. The demon moon furnace opened and 8 medicinal pills flew out. Before they even manifested their shape, Long Chen's fist landed, blasting apart the runes surrounding them. After that, all the medicinal pills were grabbed and tossed into his primal chaos space. Suddenly, the lightning in the sky vanished. With the medicinal pills gone from this world, the tribulation also vanished. Right now, Meng Qi and the others came forward curiously. Long Chen took out the heaven-merging pills once more. They were as black as charcoal, but specks of light flowed within them like countless stars. These heaven-merging pills gave off an extremely sinister feeling, completely different from the heaven-merging pills that they had previously refined. This medicinal pill's pill spirit is incredible. If Long Chen refined a few thousand, wouldn't that be an army? Tang Wanner smacked her lips. That pill had fought exactly like Long Chen just now. Although its aura was weaker, it possessed a portion of his power and combat experience. That was enough to give it incredible power. The face-slapping art in particular had almost struck Long Chen. Anyone else would probably have no chance of dodging. Long Chen shook his head. These demonic pills can't be controlled like that. Tang Wanner was disappointed. That was truly a pity. She was already envisioning an army of pills commanded by Long Chen. The reason demon pills were called so was due to how nefarious they were. There were many inexplicable things about them. Let alone them, even Linge, the item spirit of the demon moon furnace, was unable to fully explain the abilities of demon pills. Demon pills contained a different kind of power in this universe, one that others couldn't explain. Not even the pill sovereign's memories had information on that. The only thing that could be said was that this power was demonic. Long Chen then looked at the demonic pills in his hand. These pills are like a mirror reflecting all the energies inside my body. Flame energy, thunder force, the power of my astral spaces. I can even vaguely feel the auras of my divine ring and 6-star battle armor. Other than the primal chaos space, all my secrets are within it. This was truly shocking. Even during his heavenly tribulation, the heavenly Daos had been unable to replicate most of his abilities. But these demonic pills had managed to do so. These demonic pills had not just absorbed his own energy but also the energy of this world, in addition to an unclear demonic energy. It could be said that these pills were made based on his body. To others, it was a pill of destruction that would kill anyone who consumed them. At this moment, Long Chen, Meng Qi, and the others began to crazily refine pills. After 3 furnaces of demonic pills, he tried refining a giant pill. The result was that the giant pill actually came out to fight him, and its power was shocking. It reflected practically all his techniques, even the Azure Dragon battle armor. However, it didn't have true blood chi backing it, so its power couldn't compare to Long Chen. It was still defeated and transformed into a large medicinal pill. 6-colored light flowed over it, just like Long Chen's divine ring. This divine ring had 6 stars shining within it, just like when Long Chen summoned it. However, while it was able to imitate the divine ring and 6-star battle armor, it was unable to use that kind of power. Despite that, the power of this pill still made Meng Qi and the others jump. When this giant pill transformed into Long Chen, the red light in its eyes was extremely frightening. It was like a devil king. Long Chen and the giant pill fought an intense battle. The pill was extremely vicious, exchanging ruthless blows just to injure Long Chen. If it weren't for Long Chen having an absolute advantage in terms of power, he really might have been wounded. This giant demonic pill seemed to contain an entire star. It was like the explosive power of an entire world was compressed inside, ready to erupt at any moment. After beating it, Long Chen rested, while Meng Qi and the others continued refining pills. As for Long Chen, he was examining the giant pill. The starry light of the giant pill illuminated Long Chen's face. It was like a mirror. Looking at himself inside of the demonic pill, Long Chen felt a chill. A sense of fear slowly crept over his heart. The self that he saw within the demonic pill looked completely foreign. It was like the souls of millions of devils condensed into his shape. Just a glance at this version of himself could cause someone to want to die. "Who are you?" Looking at himself in the giant demonic pill, Long Chen clenched his fist. Through this refinement, it felt like he saw another soul within his body. It was an extremely sinister, bloodthirsty, and violent soul. It was like all the evil of the world was condensed inside of it. The moment Long Chen spoke to the demonic pill spoke back to him, saying the same words. It was a mirror seemingly reflecting his inner heart, and it didn't give him any answer. Long Chen finally sighed and closed his eyes. For some reason, just staring at this version of himself made him feel exhausted. Was it the Pill Sovereign's will? No, the Pill Sovereign's will was arrogant but not evil. A heart devil. No, a heart devil reflected the most important part of someone, making it consume the rest of a person's mind. Just what was it? Long Chen vaguely felt uneasy. In this world, the most frightening thing was the unknown. He vaguely sensed that there was something within him. Although it had never influenced him, it still made him feel afraid. In order to not worry Meng Qi and the others, he didn't mention this to them. But as time passed, he realized something. Even though he always tried to avoid wrapping them in his karma, in truth, from the moment they met, they were already within his karma. That was why he was now comfortable enough to share these things with them, even the name of the 9-star Hegemon body art and some of what he knew about it. If it comforted them, he was comfortable telling them these things. He had a feeling that telling them wasn't a bad thing. Long Chen, news has come from the Alliance. The Yin-Yang world has launched an attack. Suddenly, Tang Wan ran over anxiously. So quickly. Long Chen was startled. This was currently the time when everyone was resting and focusing entirely on increasing their realm. At this moment, time was in the invaders' favor, and it had only been a few days, so why would they launch an attack? Tang Wana reported, the Alliance sent word that the Yin-Yang world launched a sudden attack with 100,000 heaven-merging experts. They caught us off guard, and by the time we gathered our forces, they retreated. However, then Devil Spirit Mountain attacked. There is also the demon race from the ancient battlefield and the undying race of resentful Death City. They all launched sudden attacks and pulled back just as we prepared to strike back. Long Chen nodded. The undying race, the blood race, the devil race, and the demon race really are prudent. Even with such an advantage over us, they are still doing everything they can to increase their odds. They're disturbing us so that we can't properly cultivate. They had launched sneak attacks, but they were nothing more than disturbances. At the same time, they could also probe the real situation of the continent. Their sneak attacks killed over 10,000 of our heaven-merging experts. That's not a good omen. Those bastards are all hateful. Tang Wana clenched her teeth furiously. War is simply like that. Any and all methods are used, and there are no rules to speak of. For victory, Anything goes, and that is the correct path. Long Chen smiled and comforted Tangwan. Even after all these years, she still had a child's temper. Battle was not a game. How are you still smiling? Tangwaner glared at him. What else should I do? Cry? If crying could win a battle, I don't mind crying until the heavens are flooded. Long Chen became serious. Alright, did the report say anything about the power of these sneak attacks? What level have they reached? Tangwaner said, the Alliance's news said that their main force was composed of newly advanced heaven merging experts. The senior heaven merging experts were just in charge of directing the troops. However, these new heaven merging experts have reached the mid-realm, somewhere between the 4th heaven stage and the 5th heaven stage. So high. Long Chen was startled. It had only been a bit more than 10 days since the tribulation. How had they reached the mid-heaven merging realm? Even with the Dragonblood warriors focusing on cultivation and the assistance of medicinal pills, Gu Yang and the others had only reached the 2nd heaven stage. There were also some sects that had disciples forcibly raise their realms regardless of risks to their foundations. However, even so, only over 500 people on the entire continent had reached the 3rd heaven stage. Those people had sacrificed their foundations in order to increase their cultivation speed. But even so, their enemies had advanced to the mid-heaven merging realm. That speed truly caused despair. Exactly. It's crazy. Their sneak attacks didn't cause too many casualties for the continent, but it's a serious blow to the continent's morale, said Tangwaner. The fact that Long Chen had destroyed the Karmic luck pearl, resulting in the continent no longer being able to produce a sovereign, was already a heavy stone on people's hearts. But now, adding on the enemy's terrifying cultivation speed, they couldn't see the slightest hope. No matter how they cultivated with their lives on the line, it was meaningless. The difference was too great. This is most likely intentional. They want our confidence to collapse, so I would guess that they created these troops just for this attack. With such rapid cultivation, it's no longer a matter of their foundations growing unsteady. Their cultivation bases are essentially set in stone. They will never advance again. Each world sacrificed 100,000 people just to shake our confidence. They have some guts, said Long Chen. He refused to believe that there was a way to allow someone who had just advanced to heaven merging to reach the 4th or 5th heaven stage without some kind of price. The Shin Master is of the same opinion. He said that this is mental warfare, and they definitely won't stop with just this. As they shake our confidence, they also disturb our cultivation, forcing us to be too nervous to cultivate properly, said Tangwaner. Long Chen smiled. The Shin Master is correct. Did he say how we should counter them? He did not. Long Chen was somewhat speechless. Alright, then I guess he left this problem to me. However, thinking about it, he supposed that this was the correct call. He was currently the hope of the Martial Heaven continent. If he was the one to settle this problem, it would raise the continent's morale much more, and he would shatter their enemies' mental warfare. Then what should we do? Asked Tangwan. What else? We'll strike back. We must have the initiative in our hands, or we'll slowly be suffocated to death. Have the Dragonblood Legion go out and split into 4 to attack the 4 worlds. Have them work with Monyen and Ziyen. Wild also came back yesterday, and Jichio has come out of seclusion. Every group will have a supreme divine item protecting them, said Long Chen. Will that work? What if they fall into our enemy's trap? Furthermore, if they encounter someone like the High Priest, they'll be in danger. Tangwaner was not at ease with such a plan. In truth, their sneak attacks are entirely unnecessary. We're already weaker than them. They have experts that need to become sovereigns, and that requires gathering the power of an entire world. By sneak attacking us, they've ended up reminding me what we should be doing. We will strike their worlds, disturbing the laws of their worlds so that the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the Blood Fiend Devil Lord, and the others are unable to become sovereigns as quickly. That will win us precious time. If they don't become sovereigns, they won't dare to enter the Martial Heaven continent, said Long Chen. The Blood Fiend Devil Lord, the All-Devil Heaven Walker, Yi Ming, and the 9-headed lion had all been defeated by Long Chen. If they wanted vengeance, they had to become sovereigns first. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to find trouble for Long Chen again, or they would be purely courting death. Then what about us refining pills? Asked Tang Wan. If they weren't here refining pills, the Dragonblood Legion would have their cultivation speed slowed down greatly. We'll be refining pills here as usual. We don't need to bother with them. Didn't I already say that Emon Yen will be there? He can direct everyone. We'll just come over if they need us, said Long Chen. You're not going? Asked Tang Wan, surprised. No. I want to focus entirely on refining pills. Once there are enough, I need to go look for the Eastern Wasteland Bell, said Long Chen. Long Chen then called over Meng Qi and the others. He had them stop with their refinement of the ordinary heaven-merging pills because they already had enough to last the Dragonblood Legion a long time. Instead, they helped him refine demonic pills. Once he had enough, he would go out in search of the Eastern Wasteland Bell, leaving his clone to refine the ordinary heaven-merging pills with Meng Qi and the others. Just as they were refining the demonic heaven-merging pills as quickly as possible, the Dragonblood Legion received his orders and began to mobilize. After the Dragonblood Legion was assembled, Emon Yen, Zi Yen, Wild, and Yi Zhiqiu split them up into 4 groups and led them off to their own targets. Emon Yen brought the first group to Resentful Death City. In order to display the Mo family's might, he specifically brought 10,000 of the Mo family's elite disciples, the strongest warriors. They were all handpicked by Emon Yen. He had decided to also train his own legion like Long Chen. However, the Mo family's legion was composed of master archers with overwhelming offensive power while lacking defensive power. With the Dragonblood warriors, they now had people skilled in both close and long-range battle. If Chu Jianying didn't harshly warn Emon Yen not to mess around, he might even have the urge to lead these people in destroying Resentful Death City. The second group was Li Qi's corp, led by Yi Zhiqiu. Their target was the devil race of Devil Spirit Mountain. The third group was Song Mingyuan's corp, led by Wild. In order to be safe, Xia Chen and Guoran joined this group. While Wild's power was terrifying, he was like a child. This group specifically chose to target the ancient battlefield, because that place was filled with the demon race. In other words, food for Wild. Wild had just returned, but his body was now covered in strange marks. He had 2 horns shining on top of his head, and his blood chi was like fire, twisting the void around him. They still didn't know where the Western Desert Axe had brought Wild, but now that he was back, his aura had become much fiercer. He truly did appear like a monster. Fortunately, while his aura was frightening, his character was still the same. Furthermore, the Western Desert Axe on his back had recovered a great deal. Most of the rust on it was gone, revealing its divine luster. Even upon returning, Wild's mouth never paused. He was constantly picking out things from a fur sack on his chest and tossing them into his mouth. Those things were fist-sized corpses of 13th rank beasts. Wild was actually treating them as snacks. Furthermore, it seemed like he would never be full. The fourth group was Yu Zifeng's corp, and Zi Yen and Yu Zifeng led it together. Yu Zifeng had also just returned. After the tribulation, he had gone to the Heavenly Sword Gate to pay respects to his master, the old sect master of the Xiantian Monastery, Ling Yunzi. That trip had taken 10 days. Upon returning, the ordinary sword he usually used was gone, replaced with an ancient, fearful sword. Although it had never come out of its sheath, it gave a feeling that if it ever did, it would definitely cause a storm of blood. With that sword, Yu Zifeng's entire aura became colder. However, since he rarely spoke, no one asked him what had happened. As a sword cultivator, his offensive power was incomparable. Moreover, with Zi Yen as support, there was definitely no problem with their group. In order to be absolutely safe, it wasn't just the Dragonblood Legion who was mobilized. Yi Lingshan, Nangong Ziyu, Beiteng Rushuang, and Shimen Tianxiong also joined the 4 groups. As soon as they were gathered, they flew off in 4 different directions, going toward Resentful Death City, Devil Spirit Mountain, the Ancient Battlefield, and the Yin-Yang World. When Emon Yen arrived in Resentful Death City, he immediately encountered a group of the Undying Race's experts. After their first sneak attack, they were in the midst of preparing for a second assault. They were playing tactics, thinking that the martial heaven continent would definitely not expect a second assault right after the first one. They were planning on consecutive attacks to wipe out the martial heaven continent's morale. As a result, they were still in the midst of a speech to raise their own morale when Mo Nian arrived. We arrived at the right time. Mo Nian gave the order, and the Mo family's disciples' bows curved like crescent moons. Arrows rained down like lightning on the Undying Race's experts. This group of the Undying Race had just returned, and now they found that the martial heaven continent had caught their tail. For a moment, chaos reigned in their midst. After the wave of arrows, Gu Yang led the Dragon Blood warriors charging forward. While they were only at the early heaven merging realm, they still slaughtered these mid-heaven merging experts before them. "Don't crush them. Keep their heads intact," shouted Mo Nian. The Dragon Blood warriors were too fierce, and their attacks destroyed these experts' very existence. Chen said that he wanted their heads as compensation to the martial heaven continent. If they were destroyed, then there would be no proof. However, it was useless. These undying experts were unable to block a single swing of the Dragon Blood warriors' swords. "It's no good," shouted Gu Yang. The Dragon Blood warriors had started off by absorbing the pill dregs of Chen's first refinement. Due to it containing his world energy, their astral spaces grew once more. Later on, Chen refined demonic pills, and their energy was absorbed by the warriors through formations, resulting in their astral spaces growing as their realm increased. Their astral spaces were now twice as large as before. A heaven merging expert merged heavenly Tao energy with the world energy in their astral spaces. With that world energy as a foundation, the power they could unleash multiplied. Hence, there was no longer any way for them to control themselves. They couldn't keep the heads of the enemies intact. Fine, then work hard. I'll just have to use a photographic jade as proof. Mo family disciples, hear my orders. Use the life-ending arrows. Don't let a single enemy escape. Hearing that, the Mo family's disciples took out black arrows with countless barbs. Every barb had a blood-colored rune on it. Those blood-colored runes contained their life energy. Once those runes pierced into an enemy's body, they would automatically detonate. They could also detonate with the will of their master. Once it exploded, a curse rune would be born, one that instantly sucked away the life of an expert. This was a secret art that Mo Nian had found in an ancient tomb. He had specially made these arrows afterward. The Dragon Blood warriors were like tigers descended upon a group of sheep. Those 100,000 undying experts were quickly slaughtered. In just 4 breaths' time, they were fleeing in all directions. By fleeing, they became live targets for the Mo family's disciples. Arrows pierced through their undying bodies, their protective divine light unable to stop the arrows. Those who were pierced by the arrows died without being able to make a sound. They simply fell limply to the ground. Retreat! Mo Nian suddenly glanced at the core of resentful Death City and waved his hand. Everyone rapidly fell back. You think you can run now? Keep dreaming! A giant hand crashed down from the sky, shattering space, enveloping every Dragon Blood warrior and disciple of the Mo family. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.